"Christopher, you're a disgrace to this family. Leave, you're not wanted here." Those cutting words pierced through the air, spat by my own father amidst the celebration of my brother Alex's wedding. The humiliation stung deeper as Alex remained silent, a silent accomplice to my expulsion. Anger boiled within me, ready to storm out when a plea for help interrupted my departure. A staff member, desperate in a moment of crisis, sought my aid. In that unexpected turn, my father saw me for who I truly was, and it jolted him. My name is Christopher, one of two brothers in our family. Growing up, our father, a stern lawyer, favored Alex, leaving me to perpetually chase his shadow. No moment of leisure existed in our lives. Every second was dedicated to lessons and studying. Even the simple joy of playing with friends was a luxury denied. Despite my relentless efforts to meet my father's lofty standards and match Alex's achievements, I perpetually felt inadequate, a constant disappointment to my father. The pivotal moment arrived with the entrance exam for a prestigious school, a futile attempt to win my father's approval. When I inevitably failed, my father's silence towards me solidified, his attention solely on Alex and my mother. Left to navigate the shadows of neglect, I found solace in my mother's unwavering support, but they persisted, exacerbated by Alex's indifference. Determined to forge my own path, I departed silently after high school, leaving only a note for my mother. Striking out on my own, I secured a job at a hotel where I could both work and live. It was there, amidst the bustling corridors and transient guests, that I found the freedom and fulfillment that eluded me at home. I get to focus on what I need to do, Christopher. Another mistake? How many times do I have to tell you? I'm sorry, I'll fix it right away. Get it together, Christopher. Michael, the hotel manager, was relentless in his expectations. As a mere high school graduate thrust into the real world, I constantly found myself on the receiving end of his reprimands. Yet, amidst the criticism, I persisted, striving to prove myself in this unfamiliar terrain. Unlike my father's harshness, Michael's feedback was constructive. His praise, when earned, fueled my determination to excel. A significant moment etched itself into my memory at the dawn of the new year, the busiest time for the hotel. After completing the requisite training, I was entrusted to work independently. That year, the influx of guests seemed greater than ever, stretching our resources to their limits. The chaos of serving dinner guests, either in the bustling dining hall or through room service, reached fever pitch. Despite being a novice, I tackled my duties with fervor, aware that my learning curve came at the expense of the hotel's smooth operation. Then, a minor crisis struck on New Year's Day. A colleague fell ill, leaving us short-staffed. I doubled down on my efforts, pushing myself beyond the mandated hours to keep the hotel afloat. Just when it seemed we had weathered the storm, disaster struck. The kitchen sink's pipe burst amidst the dinner rush, plunging us into chaos. With no plumber available on New Year's Day, the situation grew dire. Michael's frustration mirrored the mounting tension. In a moment of desperation, I stepped forward. "Michael, can I try fixing the plumbing? I'll sort it out." Though met with skepticism, my offer was our only hope. With a hesitant nod, Michael relented, allowing me to take charge. Unbeknownst to many, my time at a science-focused high school had equipped me with a unique set of skills, including rudimentary plumbing knowledge. Drawing on this background, I set to work. Half an hour later, the once flooded kitchen was restored to order, the crisis averted through a combination of determination and unexpected expertise. I had somehow managed to fix the pipe, I announced breathlessly to Michael. He rushed over, turning the faucet with eager anticipation. Water gushed forth, a testament to my makeshift repair. The room erupted in smiles and praise. "Great job, Christopher. You're my pride and joy," Michael declared, his words washing over me with warmth. Growing up under Michael's guidance had been a revelation. Together, we navigated the challenges of New Year's Day at the hotel, emerging victorious. The sense of fulfillment I experienced that day left an indelible mark, shaping the person I am today. 15 years flew by, and I found myself fully immersed in my role at the hotel. Then, one day, a letter arrived from Mom, breaking the silence that had settled between us. It bore news of Alex's impending marriage. Though I had drifted apart from Dad and Alex, Mom's plea for my presence at the wedding tugged at my heartstrings. Reluctantly, I agreed to attend. The venue, a luxurious hotel, mirrored Alex and Dad's penchant for extravagance. As I arrived, clad in a trusty suit, I couldn't shake the feeling of being out of place amidst the elite gathering. Perhaps Alex's bride, a woman of impeccable grace, was a product of Dad's networking or a strategic alliance. In the waiting room, surrounded by faces of high society, I found myself an outsider, observing from the periphery. With no one to engage, I became a silent observer, watching the intricate dance of privilege and power unfold before me. As I locked eyes with two familiar faces, a sense of unease settled within me. His expression was unmistakably displeased. Dad and Alex approached, their presence looming over me. "Why are you here?" Dad's voice, deep and commanding, echoed through the air, stirring memories long buried. "Is it so wrong to celebrate Alex's wedding?" "Oh, by the way, congrats, Alex," I replied, trying to diffuse the tension. Alex's response was muted, his conflicted expression betraying the strain of our family dynamics. "What have you been up to all these years?" "No doubt some worthless job," and his words cut through the air like a knife, his disdain palpable. "Christopher, you shouldn't be here," he continued, his tone dripping with contempt. Mom rushed over, attempting to intercede. "Come on, Christopher is here to celebrate. No need to be so harsh," she pleaded, her desperation evident. But her efforts were futile, drowned out by Dad's unwavering judgment. "Enough, Mom," Dad asserted, his voice a thunderous decree. "Christopher, let me make this clear. You're a disgrace. I don't want you ruining Alex's celebration. Get out." Anger surged within me, fueled by years of neglect and rejection. I hadn't wanted to come to Alex's wedding, and yet I found myself subjected to this humiliation. "Fine, I'm leaving," I declared, my resolve firm. As I turned to exit the waiting room, a voice called out, halting my retreat. A wedding staff member approached, urgency etched on their face. "What's up?" I inquired, curiosity mingling with frustration. "It seems we have an unexpected guest for today's wedding. We're short on seats and food," they explained hurriedly, their concern evident. Everyone in the waiting room looks worried. Emily, the planner, and the parents-in-law staff, their faces etched with concern, awaited a solution. Caught between indignation and duty, I hesitated, uncertain of my next move. "I see. Is that what's going on? Emily can't handle it alone, and they're asking for my help. But what does this have to do with me?" I pondered, a torrent of grievances against Dad and Alex swirling within me. Yet amidst the resentment, memories from the past surfaced, softening my resolve. Recollections of Alex's kindness flooded my mind, the times he made space for play during our study breaks. If I walked away now, I'd be no better than Dad. With a determined sigh, I turned back to the wedding staff. "Can you take me to Emily?" I requested, a flicker of resolve in my voice. The staff member's face softened, and I followed them back into the waiting room, reclaiming the ground from which I had been expelled moments before. In the center of the room, Emily, Dad, and the bride's father wore expressions of concern. As I approached, Dad's eyes locked with mine, his demeanor bristling with hostility. "Why has Christopher returned?" he demanded, his tone sharp. Before he could escalate the confrontation, Emily intervened. "General Manager, please help us," she implored, her urgency palpable. Dad's shock was evident as I calmly revealed my position as the general manager of the hotel chain. Since joining the company during its nascent stages, we had expanded to hotels and wedding venues nationwide. The very hotel we stood in was under my oversight. "I think I can handle this," I assured them, dismissing Dad's protests with a wave of my hand. "Dad, I'm busy right now. We'll talk later." With a sense of purpose, I turned to Emily. "Relax, Emily. Get the seats and everything else ready. I'll take care of the food," I directed, watching as the tension ebbed from her features. "Understood. I'll leave the food to the general manager and handle the rest," she affirmed before rushing off to execute the plan. With all eyes on me, I exited the room and sought out my friend, Chef Jackson. "Hey, you in?" I called out as he emerged from the kitchen. "Christopher, what brings you here?" he inquired, his curiosity piqued. "I'm here as a guest today. My brother's wedding is happening here, but we're one meal short. Can you help?" I asked Chef Jackson, hoping for a quick fix. "Sure thing. I'll whip something up with my culinary skills," he replied confidently. "Much appreciated. I owe you dinner. Looking forward to it," I replied gratefully. After handling a few loose ends, I returned to the waiting room. The guests had already moved to the ceremony area, leaving only my parents and the bride's parents behind. As I announced the issue was resolved, relief washed over the room. "We've got an extra meal coming," I explained, seeing the tension ease from my mom's and the bride's parents' faces. My dad, however, remained conflicted, his pride evident. "Christopher, thank you so much. Because of you, the celebration can go on successfully," my dad acknowledged, his gratitude genuine. "It's all in a day's work as a general manager," I replied with a smile, leading the way into the ceremony hall. As the lights dimmed and the groom and bride made their entrance, I couldn't help but marvel at their radiant presence. The ceremony proceeded smoothly, and as mealtime arrived, I ensured everyone was served before finally exhaling a sigh of relief. With the ceremony concluded, I engaged in a heartfelt conversation with both families, sharing their gratitude towards me, especially from the bride's family, who thanked me profusely. "These moments are why I love my job," I admitted sincerely as their expressions of gratitude warmed my heart. "Christopher, thank you so much. We had the best day ever, all thanks to you," they expressed with genuine appreciation. "No worries. Wishing you all the happiness in the world. Thank you so much," I replied warmly before turning to face my dad and Alex. "Christopher, you did wonderfully. Thank you," my mom praised, her words filled with pride. Dad and Alex wanted to speak with me. As Alex apologized first, expressing gratitude for my assistance, I couldn't help but smile. "As long as I could help, Alex, it's all good," I reassured him before turning to Dad, who remained silent. With a sense of closure, I accepted their gratitude, knowing that despite our differences, we could find common ground. Just then, my cell phone buzzed, signaling more work awaiting me at the hotel in the next town over. Looks like more work, but hey, I enjoy it, so no complaints. "All right, I'm off. Got work to do. You two take care," I bid farewell, ready to embrace the challenges that lay ahead. It was a realization settling in. I probably wouldn't see Alex or Dad again. With that thought lingering, I left the room without a backward glance, my steps leading me back to work. 3 days post Alex's wedding, I relished a rare day off, reclining on the sofa with a steaming cup of coffee, my moment of bliss abruptly interrupted by the doorbell's chime. Curious as to the visitor's identity, I made my way to the door, only to be met with Alex's unexpected presence. "Alex, what brings you here?" I inquired, surprised by his appearance. "Sorry, I got your address from Mom. Wanted to talk to you, Christopher," Alex explained, his tone tentative. I welcomed him in, brushing off any concerns about the tidiness of my home. As I poured him a cup of coffee, Alex expressed gratitude, taking a slow sip. "Thank you. Smells good," he remarked, attempting a smile. As we settled into conversation, Alex's demeanor shifted, his gaze unwavering as he broached the topic at hand. The next moment he apologized, I recalled, puzzled by his sudden change in tone. "I'm really sorry for everything," he admitted, catching me off guard. Initially taken aback by his unexpected apology, I struggled to comprehend his motive for making the trip in person. "Hey, it's all right, Alex," I reassured him, attempting to alleviate any tension. But Alex wasn't done yet. With a sense of vulnerability, he began to share his innermost thoughts and feelings. "You might think I'm the older brother who can do anything, but I envy you, Christopher," he confessed, his words striking a chord. Silence enveloped the room as Alex's confession hung in the air, leaving me at a loss for words. His admission took me by surprise, shattering preconceived notions and revealing a side of him I had never seen. "I had no idea you felt that way, Alex," I admitted, a twinge of guilt gnawing at me as I processed his revelation. "That's just it. It's not your fault, Christopher," Alex reassured me, his weak smile betraying a depth of emotion. In that moment, a sense of understanding washed over me, bridging the gap between us. "Alex, I'm sorry. I never considered that you were struggling too," I confessed, my own remorse surfacing. My brother's smile, though faint, spoke volumes. "That's just it. It's not your fault, Christopher," he reassured me, his words echoing in the quiet room. With a newfound sense of empathy and connection, we found the words to express what had long been left unsaid, strengthening the bond between us. "I think you've been through struggles I can't even imagine. I truly admire that. But I also want you to know about me," I confessed to Alex, feeling the weight of my words as they hung in the air. Taking a deep breath, I paused, gathering my thoughts before continuing. Alex listened intently, his silence encouraging me to share more. Breaking away from our parents and becoming independent wasn't easy either. The beginning was really tough, I admitted, recognizing the parallel struggles we both faced. It's true, we both have our share of hardships, Alex acknowledged, his response genuine. It was clear that he had more to say, but I found myself at a loss for words, unsure of how to offer guidance or reassurance. Unable to conjure up wise counsel, I spoke from the heart. To be honest, I think you should do what you really want to do, Alex, without worrying about Dad, I suggested, hoping to offer him some semblance of clarity amidst his inner turmoil. As Alex absorbed my words, a sense of relief washed over him. You're right, Christopher. You've helped clear up my inner turmoil. Thank you, he expressed, gratitude evident in his tone. No, thank you, Alex, for coming over, I replied sincerely, accompanying him to the door as he departed with a promise to return for coffee. A month later, a letter arrived from Alex, detailing his decision to leave behind his career as a lawyer in pursuit of his passion for glass craftsmanship. Despite facing disapproval from Dad, Alex found solace in the support of his wife and newfound motivation in his chosen path. As I reflected on Alex's journey and our evolving family dynamics, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in the bond between siblings. Lost in thought, the sound of my mobile phone's alarm jolted me back to reality, signaling the start of another day on the path I had chosen, in the job I had embraced. Hi, everyone. I'm Erica, and you won't believe what my sister did to my wedding dress. But that's just the start of this nightmare. Let me take you back to where it all began. It had been another successful campaign launch. I leaned back in my office chair, savoring the moment. At 28, I was a senior marketing executive at Thompson & Brooks, a position I'd worked tirelessly to achieve. Yet, every win still felt incredible. My phone buzzed with a message from my sister, Melissa. Melissa, Mom and Dad just bought me a new car. Don't be jealous. Attached was a photo of her posing with a brand new Mercedes. Really? I muttered, irritation rising. They bought her another car while I'm still paying off my student loans. I showed the text to my best friend, Kate, who worked with me. Your sister is something else, Kate said, shaking her head. You worked 3 jobs through college, and she's been living like a queen off your parents. Don't remind me, I groaned. Remember when she accidentally spilled coffee on my graduation gown? Or how she told everyone at my promotion party that I only got the job because I was sleeping with my boss. Kate grimaced. Ah, and your fiancé James almost believed her that time. Good thing he saw through it. Speaking of James, my eyes softened as I glanced at the photo of us on my desk. We'd met during college, bonding over long shifts at a coffee shop and shared dreams. Later, my phone rang. It was Melissa. Hey sis, I'm so excited to be your maid of honor. Let's go dress shopping, like, right now. Melissa, I'm at work. Some of us have to earn a living, I replied dryly. Don't be such a buzzkill. Mom and Dad said they'd help with the wedding, so no worries about the cost. They offered. I declined, I said firmly. James and I want a modest wedding that we can afford ourselves. That evening, I vented to James. She got another car while they wouldn't even help me with textbooks, and Kate overheard her at the engagement party calling our wedding budget pathetic. James sighed, pulling me into a hug. Maybe she shouldn't be in the wedding at all. You know how she is. If I don't include her, Mom and Dad will never let me live it down. They always take her side. The next day, Kate called, her voice urgent. Erica, you won't believe what Melissa just posted on Instagram. She's claiming she introduced you to James. She wasn't even in town when we met. I snapped. Exactly. She's trying to take credit again, Kate said. And that fake excitement about being maid of honor. I don't trust it. Neither did I, but I was determined. My wedding day would not be another one of her spectacles. Until it was. I froze in horror as I stared at my wedding dress, crumpled on the floor of my spare room. Bleach stains covered the bodice, the fabric was torn, and burn marks marred the train. My hands shook as I sank to my knees. What happened? Kate's voice rang out as she entered the room, her eyes widened. Oh my God. Before I could respond, my phone rang. It was Melissa. Hey sis, she chirped. I heard you might have a little problem with your dress. Good thing I still have my wedding gown. It's way more expensive than yours anyway. My blood ran cold. How did you know about my dress? Oh, just a feeling, she said with mock innocence. Kate stormed in, holding up her phone. Erica, you need to see this. She played footage from her security camera. It showed Melissa sneaking into my apartment earlier that day carrying a bag. She disappeared into the spare room for 20 minutes before leaving. I stared at the screen, disbelief mixing with rage. Memories flooded back, my prom dress that mysteriously tore, the college acceptance letter I never received in time, and every other disaster Melissa had saved me from while looking like the hero. I called my parents. Mom, Dad, come over. Now. They arrived just as James and his brother, Connor, walked in. Connor immediately began photographing the damage. Look at what your perfect Melissa did to my wedding dress, I said, voice shaking, as I played the footage for them. Oh honey, I'm sure she didn't mean to, Mom started, her voice dripping with condescension. Didn't mean to, I shot back, my voice shaking. There's literal video evidence. Well, if you had just accepted our offer to buy your dress in the first place, Dad said, crossing his arms. That is not the point, I snapped. Your daughter deliberately destroyed my wedding dress the night before my wedding. She's offering you her dress, isn't she? Mom sighed, exasperated. Just take it and stop making such a big deal out of this. You've always been so dramatic. Connor stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. As a lawyer, I should point out that what we just witnessed in that footage constitutes criminal damage to property. You wouldn't dare press charges against your own sister. Dad bellowed. Watch me, I said, my voice cold as ice. James stepped beside me as I tried to steady my breathing. The wedding's postponed, I announced. I have to call all 100 guests and explain why. Do you have any idea how much money we're going to lose on deposits? Dad's tone turned scornful. If you just wore Melissa's dress. Get out. My voice cut through the air like a knife. Get out of my apartment. Right now. Mom and Dad exchanged a look before leaving, muttering under their breath. James wrapped his arms around me as tears streamed down my face. Connor broke the silence. We've got the evidence, he said quietly, and I've uncovered some other information about your sister that might be relevant. Kate, already on her phone, looked up with fire in her eyes. I'm posting that footage everywhere. Let's see her try to lie her way out of this one. I glanced at my ruined dress, thinking about the extra shifts I'd worked to afford it. She's gone too far this time. No more playing nice. No more forgiving and forgetting. James rubbed my back gently. What do you want to do? I want her to face real consequences, I said, my voice hardening. And I never want to see her again. Connor spread a stack of documents across the kitchen table. Remember Melissa's ex-husband, Rick? The one who suddenly left her because he was intimidated by her success. That wasn't the reason. What are you saying? I asked. She opened 6 credit cards in his name, Connor explained. Maxed them all out. He only found out when debt collectors started calling. That's why he disappeared. He was working with the credit card companies to prove identity theft. Before I could respond, Kate burst into the room, her face flushed. Speaking of your lovely sister, guess who's been sending inappropriate texts to James for the past month? James sighed, pulling out his phone. I blocked her number, but she kept making new accounts. I didn't want to tell you because I knew it would hurt you. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the messages. Melissa had suggested meeting in secret, claiming I was cheating on James. That manipulative little. I stopped, fury choking my words. There's more, Connor said grimly. I dove into some financial records. Seems Melissa's been slowly draining Mom and Dad's retirement fund. Over $200,000 gone in the last 2 years. My phone buzzed with a message from my cousin Sarah. Sarah, oh my God, Erica. I just found out Melissa was lying. She told us you said all those horrible things about Aunt Marie's cancer. I can't believe we believed her and didn't talk to you for a year. Kate muttered, classic Melissa. Remember when half your family didn't show up to your college graduation? Bet she had something to do with that too. Another buzz, this time from Melissa's new boyfriend David. David, got your message about checking my accounts. You were right, she's been forging my signatures. It's over, I'm pressing charges. Then my parents called. Mom's voice was trembling. Honey, we just got a call from the bank. Our retirement account, it's almost empty. Did you know about this? Connor found the proof. It was Melissa, I said flatly. It's always been Melissa. Still want to defend her. We had no idea, Mom said tearfully. All these years she told us you were jealous of her, spreading lies about her. Well, now you know the truth, I said coldly. How does it feel to realize you backed the wrong daughter all this time? My phone kept lighting up with messages from family members, all echoing the same sentiment: apologies, disbelief, and outrage as Melissa's web of lies unraveled. This explains the constant shopping, the new car, the luxury vacations, Connor said, shaking his head. She's been stealing from everyone. Kate grinned, holding up her phone. Look, David just posted publicly about her fraud. Her perfect image is crumbling. You know the worst part? I said, staring at the pile of evidence on the table. She could have had a good life. Our parents gave her every advantage, but it was never enough. She had to destroy everyone else's happiness too. James took my hand. The police will probably want to talk to her about the credit card fraud. Let them, I said firmly. I'm done protecting her. I'm done with all of it. Later, my mom called again, sobbing. We're so sorry, honey. We should have seen it sooner. You're right, I replied. You should have. But it's too late for apologies now. Weeks later, Kate adjusted my veil in the dressing room of a small beach house. The sound of waves drifted in through the open window. You look beautiful, she said, smiling. Our intimate wedding ceremony was everything I dreamed of, just love, no drama. I still can't believe Miss Perfect lost her VP position, Kate said, grinning as she checked her phone. The company wasn't too happy about her fraud charges being splashed all over the news. Did you see my parents' house is on the market? I asked, smoothing down my new wedding dress. It was simpler than the first, but somehow even more perfect. They're still calling, James mentioned as he walked in, adjusting his tie. Asking if you'll help them financially since they're selling the house. What did you tell them? The same thing you did. Actions have consequences. They chose to enable Melissa for years. They can't expect you to bail them out now. Connor appeared at the door, holding his phone. Speaking of consequences, he began. Melissa's being charged with multiple counts of fraud. The evidence was overwhelming once we started digging. Between the credit cards, your parents' retirement fund, and what she did to David. How long is she looking at? Minimum 5 years, Connor said. Could be more, depending on what else turns up. Kate touched up her lipstick in the mirror. Remember when your mom called, crying and begging you to write a character reference for Melissa? Same mom who told me I was being dramatic about my wedding dress. I replied, shaking my head. Yeah, not happening. The ceremony was perfect. Just us, our closest friends, and the sound of waves crashing on the shore. No family drama, no manipulations, no lies. James's vows made me cry happy tears. Ready to dance, Mrs. Marketing Director? He asked, holding out his hand and pulling me to my feet. Still can't believe I got that promotion right after we postponed the first wedding, I said, smiling. Guess sometimes bad things lead to better opportunities. Kate joined us on the dance floor. Oh, did you decide what you're doing with your new dress after today? Donating it to that charity that helps survivors rebuild their lives, I said. Feels fitting. Speaking of rebuilding, Connor interjected, Melissa's sentencing is next week. I'm not going, I said firmly. That chapter of my life is closed. James pulled me closer as we swayed to the music. Proud of you, he murmured. Lesser people would have been broken by what she did. I'm not broken, I said, glancing around at the small but joyous gathering. I'm free. There was no toxic family, no manipulative sister, no enabling parents, just love, truth, and peace. Sometimes, the best revenge is simply living well. What would you do if you discovered a close family member had been sabotaging your entire life while pretending to love you? Would you press charges like I did or try to protect them one last time? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to hear more stories about overcoming toxic relationships and finding the strength to stand up for yourself, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps me share more stories of survival and justice. Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly, a 29-year-old marketing executive at Parker & Brooks. My life seemed perfect on paper, a great job, a handsome husband, and a sleek downtown condo. But appearances can be deceiving. Let me tell you how my dream life spiraled into a nightmare. Don't worry though, I got my revenge in the end. It started the day James handed me my prenatal vitamins, his eyes twinkling. Have you told your mother about the baby yet? He asked casually. Yes, I replied, smiling. She cried happy tears for an hour on FaceTime. She's already planning to fly in from Oregon next month. Well, James said, slipping into his usual tone of superiority, my mother will want to throw you a proper society baby shower. The Bennett name carries certain expectations. I tried not to roll my eyes. After 2 years of marriage, I was used to hearing about the almighty Bennett legacy. James was thriving at his law firm, and yes, we lived a charmed life. But his family? That was another story entirely. Speaking of his family, Diana Bennett, my mother-in-law, had left 3 voicemails about Sunday dinner. Did she pick somewhere nice this time? I asked. Oh, you know Diana, James said, grinning. Only the most expensive restaurant in town. She also mentioned discussing proper prenatal care. Again. My best friend Linda had already warned me over lunch that day. Your mother-in-law is way too involved, she said, biting into her salad. Yesterday, she called our office asking about your work schedule. Classic Diana. Since announcing my pregnancy, she'd been dropping by unannounced, always with that polished channel smile and a backhanded comment about my humble roots. Darling, she cooed, perching on my desk. I'm just concerned. In our circles, most women focus on family after marriage, especially with a baby on the way. James needs a proper home life. Her daughter, Emma, my snide sister-in-law, was no better. Must be nice having a career to fall back on, she'd sneered at last week's family dinner. Some of us were raised to prioritize family. And then there was Robert, my father-in-law. The man built half the luxury condos in the city, but couldn't muster the courage to stand up to his wife. He just sat there at family gatherings, hiding behind his whiskey glass, silent as ever. Kelly, sweetie, Diana said during dinner one evening, I've been thinking about your situation. Perhaps it's time to consider a more suitable neighborhood. The Bennett hair can't be raised in that starter home of yours. Mom, we love our place, James protested weakly. Of course you do, darling, Diana replied smoothly. But Kelly's background might not have exposed her to the proper social requirements. I'm only trying to help. I squeezed my water glass, forcing a smile. 2 years of these subtle jabs were wearing me down. Just yesterday, Diana had accidentally forwarded me an email chain discussing how new money families don't understand old money traditions. The baby shower will be at the country club, Diana announced later that evening. I've already started the guest list minus 300 of our closest friends. Linda caught my eye across the table, her look saying I told you so. The interference was getting worse, and I had a sinking feeling this was only the beginning. But the final straw came at James's birthday party. It's just a few dishes, Kelly, Diana said in her sugary sweet tone, gesturing toward a mountain of dirty plates. The doctor did say you need more exercise during pregnancy. I've been following my doctor's exercise plan. I replied evenly, my patience hanging by a thread. Now, Diana said, waving off my protest. Don't be difficult. The help called in sick, and someone needs to maintain our standards. You understand, coming from your background. 5 months pregnant, I stood at the industrial sink in the Bennett's mansion, scrubbing 40 guests' worth of fine china, my back aching. James appeared in the doorway, champagne glass in hand. Mom, maybe we should just leave the dishes for tomorrow, he said half-heartedly. James, darling, Kelly offered to help. Didn't you, dear? Diana said, her smile razor sharp. I hadn't, but James just shrugged. That's just how Mom is, babe. Don't make a fuss. I glanced out the kitchen window. I could see Emma smirking from across the room, phone raised. Later, Linda texted me. Mindy, have you seen what your SIL posted? I opened the link, my stomach sinking. Emma had recorded me scrubbing dishes and captioned it, Cinderella's midnight workout. The likes and laughing emojis poured in. The next day, Linda dropped another bomb. You need to hear this, she said, pulling me aside. I overheard Diana at the country club yesterday. She was telling everyone you trapped James with the pregnancy for his money. My hands trembled as I pulled up my emails. There it was, an email accidentally forwarded to me. It was meant for James. Darling, I've spoken with our family lawyer. Given Kelly's common background, it's crucial to protect our assets. The house must be in your name only, and about her job. A Bennett wife's priority should be family. That night at dinner, Diana wasn't so. Kelly, the ladies at the club are concerned, she said, her tone dripping with Fox concern. A working mother in our circle, what will people think? I love my job, Diana. I replied, struggling to keep calm. Love doesn't maintain social standing, dear. James needs a wife who understands her role. I don't see how my job. Perhaps if you'd been raised with proper values, you'd understand. Diana interrupted smoothly. James, explain to your wife about our family's expectations. James stared at his plate, then mumbled. Mom's right about appearances, Kelly. Before I could respond, Linda, invited under the guise of family bonding, spoke up. Kelly's one of our top executives. Our clients adore her. How quaint, Diana said with a tight smile. But surely a woman in her condition should focus on more important things. My blood pressure, already flagged as elevated at my last checkup, spiked. I felt a sharp pang in my abdomen as Diana continued. Speaking of your condition, she said, her voice dropping conspiratorially. The club's board members' wives are quite concerned about certain rumors. What rumors? I asked, my voice trembling. Well, darling, people do talk about sudden pregnancies and hasty marriages. Not that I encourage gossip, of course. I gripped the table's edge to steady myself. Across the room, Emma smirked, no doubt recording my humiliation for her next post. James, I whispered, pleading, please. But he only poured another drink, avoiding my gaze. Mom's just looking out for our family name, Kelly. Try to understand. The room spun slightly, and I knew this wasn't just about their petty jabs anymore. This was about survival. Later, over coffee with Linda, I laid it all out. Every word, every email, every post, I'm saving it all. I said, scrolling through my phone. Look what Emma posted last night. Linda leaned in, her face twisting with disgust as she read Emma's latest caption. When your gold-digging SIL thinks she can handle the Bennett lifestyle. 200 likes, she muttered. Screenshot it. Already done, I said. And you won't believe what I found while helping Diana with her charity gala paperwork. I pulled up photos on my phone. Fake donation receipts. Hundreds of them. Linda's eyes widened. Girl, look at these emails I got from accounting. Diana's been calling HR Weekly, hinting you're unfit for your position. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a message from Catherine, Diana's former daughter-in-law. Meet me at Riverside Cafe. There's so much you need to know. Catherine looked drained when I arrived, but her resolve was clear. They destroyed me, Kelly, she said, sliding a USB drive across the table. Diana forced me out after she found out I couldn't have children, but I've been watching, documenting. Check the property records. Diana's been using Robert's construction company to flip properties illegally. And those sweet elderly clients she brags about helping, she manipulates them into selling below market value. That night, I tested the waters with James. James, those investments your mom suggested, they seem risky, I said casually. Mom knows what she's doing, he replied, not looking up. I've already transferred our savings. Oh, and I removed you from our joint account. Mom thinks it's safer that way. I smiled tightly, thinking of my secret meeting with Jessica Torres, the ruthless lawyer Linda had recommended. Whatever you think is best, honey. The next day, Diana cornered me in her kitchen. A little bird told me you've been asking questions about our business dealings, she said, her tone icy. Just trying to learn about the family, I replied, my phone recording in my pocket. Let me make this clear, Diana hissed. You're here to provide in here and maintain our social standing. Know your place, or things could get difficult. Click. Another recording saved. By the end of the week, Linda and I had organized everything on encrypted drives. Screenshots of Emma's social media harassment, Diana's fake charity records, property flip documentation, recordings of threats, medical records, HR complaints, and bank statements showing James draining our accounts. The lawyer said this is bigger than family court, I told Linda, my voice low but steady. We're talking tax fraud, elder abuse, illegal property schemes. Kelly, James called the office earlier, Linda warned. He's asking about financial reports. They're getting suspicious. Let them, I replied, resolute. I've got copies of everything. Catherine's been helping me track down more of Diana's elderly victims. 3 have already given statements. My phone lit up with another email from Diana. Darling, I've taken the liberty of declining your promotion for you. A Bennett wife doesn't need career advancement. I saved the email to my ever-growing file. One more piece for the case. How's the nursery planning going? James asked that night, oblivious as ever. Perfect. I said with a smile, thinking of the separate bank account Jessica helped me set up and the airtight legal case I was building. Everything was falling right into place. Breaking news. Bennett real estate empire under federal investigation. I read the headline while cradling my newborn daughter, Lily, in the hospital. The anonymous tips had worked. Diana's license had been suspended, pending a federal investigation into elder exploitation. Linda burst into the room, squealing. And you won't believe what happened to Emma. The video of her mocking you went viral at her office. HR fired her for workplace bullying. Her termination letter is making the rounds. The hits kept coming. Diana screeched through the phone a week later. How dare you keep my granddaughter from me? Like you kept those elderly clients' money from them? I shot back calmly. The real estate board seems very interested in that. Jessica, my lawyer, called shortly after. The IRS found the fake charitable donations. They're auditing everything. Robert's construction company is under investigation for illegal property flips, and James's law firm. They're cutting ties. Can't risk the association. Kelly, please, James begged during our divorce proceedings. My career is ruined. I'm moving to a smaller firm. We can work this out. Like you worked out emptying our joint account? I replied. The judge was particularly interested in those records. The settlement was better than I'd hoped. Full custody of Lily, substantial child support, and the downtown condo. The Bennett's financial fraud had made them desperate to settle quietly. 5 years flew by. Lily was now a happy kindergartner, her laughter filling the spaces once weighed down by Bennett drama. I had climbed the ladder to executive vice president, thriving in my career. Did you see this? Linda asked one afternoon, showing me her phone. Deanna's company had filed for bankruptcy, buried under 3 class action lawsuits from former clients. Emma's corporate career was in tatters. She was now folding sweaters at a retail job in the mall. Robert had lost his construction company to federal investigators, and James? He was barely scraping by at a strip mall law firm. James tried one last time during a custody exchange. Just meet with them, he pleaded. Mom's sorry, we all are. I bent down to help Lily with her coat. Save it. Lily, say goodbye to Daddy, I said, ignoring James. We've got dance class to get to. Diana attempted to reach out through mutual friends. Her messages were all the same. The past is the past. We're family. I deleted them without a second thought. The woman who made me wash dishes while pregnant tried to destroy my career and spread vicious rumors wasn't family. She was just another toxic person who learned the hard way that karma comes for everyone. Mommy, can we get ice cream? Lily asked, her ballet slippers swinging from her backpack. Of course, baby, I said, smiling. Let's celebrate. Mommy just landed another big account. As we walked hand in hand, I thought of Diana's foreclosed mansion, Emma's retail uniform, and James's damaged reputation. I hadn't just survived their cruelty, I thrived. No dramatic confrontations, no messy scenes. Just careful documentation and letting their own actions catch up to them. Hi everyone, I'm Doris Taylor. Have you ever watched someone destroy your child's happiness, only to witness karma strike back so perfectly it feels like justice served? Grab some popcorn, because this story of sweet revenge will make your day. Before we dive into this wild ride, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about surviving toxic people and coming out stronger on the other side. 3 years ago, my world turned upside down when my husband Jack passed away. Now, I juggle 2 jobs, nursing by day and bookkeeping by night, all to give our 12-year-old daughter, Sophie, the life she deserves. Another double shift, Amy? How admirable. I suppose someone has to serve the community, my sister-in-law, Victoria, quipped during Sunday dinner at the family mansion. She adjusted her pearls, flashing that fake sympathetic smile I'd grown to despise. Well, some of us actually enjoy making a difference, Victoria. I replied coolly, watching her perfectly Botox face twitch. My brother Thomas nearly choked on his wine, trying to stifle a laugh. He's always had my back, especially since Jack's death. Mom, Diana showed me her party dress today. It's so pretty. Can we go shopping for mine this weekend? Sophie asked, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Before I could answer, Victoria chimed in. Oh, darling, the boutique I'm using is quite exclusive. Perhaps you could try that charming little discount store at the mall. Her husband James cleared his throat uncomfortably. Victoria, dear. What? I'm simply being practical. We must consider everyone's circumstances. Later that evening, while I was tidying up, Diana snuck into the kitchen. Aunt Amy, I'm sorry about Mom. I really want Sophie at my party. More than anyone, she said earnestly. Thanks, sweetie. You're nothing like your mother, you know that? That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me, Diana whispered, hugging me tight. Thomas walked in just as we finished. Hey sis, got a minute? He asked. We stepped onto the back porch where he lit a cigarette. You know Victoria's just jealous, right? Jealous? Of what? Jack chose you over her back in college. She's never gotten over it. What? She dated Jack. Dated? More like threw herself at him, and he wasn't interested. Then she rushed into marrying James for his family money. She wanted to spite Jack by marrying his brother, but it backfired. That's why she's always trying to make you feel small. You have everything she really wanted. I leaned against the railing, stunned. Does James know? Probably not. Victoria's great at keeping her skeletons buried. That night, as I tucked Sophie into bed, my heart ached when she asked, Mom, why does Aunt Victoria always make those weird faces when we talk about Dad? Some people, honey, are so unhappy with their own lives that they try to make others feel bad too. But we won't let them win, right? Right? I can't wait for Diana's party. It's going to be amazing. If I'd known then what Victoria was planning, I would have done anything to protect my daughter. But life has a way of setting the stage for perfect revenge all on its own. The day of Diana's sweet 16 finally arrived. Sophie twirled in her blue dress, the one we'd saved for months to buy at Macy's. Her excitement was infectious as we pulled up to the country club in my worn-out Honda. Check my hair one more time, Mom, she giggled. Walking into the grand ballroom was like stepping into another world. Crystal chandeliers, silk-draped tables, and waiters with silver trays of champagne. Sophie's grip on my hand tightened. Oh my God. Victoria's voice cut through the air like a knife. What are you wearing? She stalked over in her designer gown, her face twisted in disgust. This is a sophisticated event, not a food court. We were invited, I said firmly, though Sophie shrank behind me. By Diana, not me. And clearly she didn't explain the dress code. Victoria sneered. Then, with a snap of her fingers, 2 security guards appeared. These people need to leave. They're embarrassing the family. Mom, stop. Diana shouted, breaking away from her friends. I want them here. Be quiet, Diana, Victoria hissed. Or you can join them. As the guards approached, the wealthy guests began to whisper. Sophie started to cry, her small shoulders trembling as they escorted us out. You can't do this. She's my cousin. Diana yelled after us. Victoria grabbed Diana's arm as we reached the parking lot. You're embarrassing yourself, she hissed. Sophie collapsed into the car seat, tears streaming down her face. Why does she hate us so much, Mom? What did we do wrong? My hands shook on the steering wheel as I dialed Thomas. His voice was tight with anger when he answered. Get to my place. Now, there's something you need to hear. 20 minutes later, we sat in Thomas's study. Sophie had cried herself to sleep on his couch. Victoria's been spreading rumors, Thomas began, his tone sharp. She's telling people you trapped Jack by getting pregnant, that you're after the family money. What? I whispered, stunned. Sophie was born 3 years after we married. I know, Thomas said grimly. But that's not all. Remember when your invitation to Cousin Sarah's wedding got lost? That was Victoria. Or the family Christmas party where you were seated in the kitchen. Victoria again. She's been systematically trying to push you out for years. My phone buzzed. A text from Diana. Mom's telling everyone you crashed the party drunk. I recorded her. I'm so sorry, Aunt Amy. My hands clenched as I watched the video. Victoria's voice rang out, dripping with malice. She's just like her alcoholic mother. Thank God Jack didn't live to see what she's become. My mother died of cancer, not alcoholism. I whispered, rage building inside me. She's using my dead husband and mother to destroy my reputation. There's more, Thomas said, leaning forward. James called me last week. He's been noticing money disappearing from the family trust. Victoria's signatures are all over the paperwork. Looking at Sophie, her cheeks still stained with tears, something inside me hardened. I want her destroyed, I said quietly. Not just embarrassed. Destroyed. Thomas smiled grimly. I was hoping you'd say that. I know exactly how to do it. The next morning, over coffee in Thomas's home office, he laid out the plan. I scrolled through Diana's texts from the night before, each one revealing more of Victoria's schemes. As I said, James noticed money missing from the family charity. Thomas spread out financial documents. Look at these signatures. Victoria's been writing checks to shell companies. I frowned, pointing to a recurring payment. Wait, I recognize this name. When I was doing bookkeeping for Harrison Industries last month, I saw similar patterns. These are fake businesses. Diana arrived during her lunch break, carrying her mother's laptop. Mom never logs out of anything, she said, handing me a USB drive with trembling hands. I found emails. She's been transferring money from Grandpa's accounts, small amounts over the years. How did you get this? I asked, stunned. Mom's drunk on power. She doesn't think I'm smart enough to figure anything out. But I've been watching, recording, saving everything. Thomas whistled as he scanned the files. She's stealing from multiple accounts, evading taxes through fake charities, and there's a whole folder of emails plotting to sabotage your reputation in the community. Just then, my phone buzzed again. A text from James. We need to talk. Victoria's up to something big. Meet me at Murphy's Diner in an hour. At the diner, James looked exhausted. I hired a private investigator last month, he said, pushing a stack of reports toward me. Victoria's been stealing from my parents' retirement accounts. Dad's having memory issues, and she's been taking advantage. How much? I asked, my stomach twisting. Over $2 million, and that youth center she was supposed to be running? It doesn't exist. She's been pocketing the donations. Back at Thomas's house, we spread everything out. Deanna's recordings, James's PI reports, and the financial documents. A pattern emerged. Victoria had been systematically stealing from everyone while building her social empire on lies. One more thing, Diana said, pulling out her phone. I recorded Mom talking to her friend Susan last week. She's planning to declare Grandpa mentally incompetent so she can take control of the entire family trust. The recording played. Once I get power of attorney, I'll cut them all off, especially that gold-digging nurse and her brat. They'll be begging on the streets where they belong. That's it, I said, standing up as fury coursed through me. Call your grandfather. He needs to hear everything. An hour later, William Harrison Sr., the family patriarch, sat in Thomas's study. His face darkened with each piece of evidence we presented. The party incident was the last straw, Diana explained, showing him the video. Mom's been torturing Aunt Amy and Suffy for years. She used your memory issues to steal. William's voice shook with rage as he spoke. And she did this to my granddaughter. All of it is documented, Thomas said, spreading out the evidence. The embezzlement, fraud, theft from your accounts, and fake charities, everything. William picked up a photo of Suffy crying in her party dress. I've been blind to what's happening in my own family, he said quietly. But this ends now. He pulled out his phone and dialed his lawyer. John, call an emergency board meeting tomorrow morning and contact the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. I want Victoria Harrison investigated for everything. Looking at me, his eyes hardened. No one hurts my family and gets away with it. Tomorrow, Victoria learns what real consequences feel like. The annual Harrison Family Foundation Gala buzzed with energy. Victoria stood at the podium, delivering a speech about family values, her voice oozing charm. Her perfect smile faltered when we walked in, Thomas, James, Diana, William Sr., and me. And now William interrupted, taking the microphone. Victoria will explain herself. Where did the missing $2 million from our youth center go? William Sr.'s voice cut through the stunned silence. The room froze. Victoria's face turned pale. I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe these will refresh your memory. James stepped forward, projecting the damning financial documents onto a screen behind him. Or should we discuss the money you stole from my parents' retirement accounts? Victoria clutched her purse and bolted for the exit, but Diana stepped in front of her, blocking her path. Running away, Mom. Just like you made Suffy run away crying from my party. Diana, move. Now, Victoria hissed, her composure crumbling. No. Everyone here needs to know who you really are, the stealing, the lies, the cruelty. It ends today. Fury flashed across Victoria's face as she raised her hand to slap Diana. But I caught her wrist mid-swing. Touch her, and assault charges will be the least of your problems, I warned. James stepped forward, his voice calm but icy. The divorce papers will be delivered tomorrow. And just so you know, the FBI is already investigating. Victoria spun around, desperately searching for an ally, but her so-called friends backed away. Phones were raised, recording every humiliating second. 6 months later, Diana and Sophie celebrated their birthdays together in our backyard. Diana had moved in with us, finding safety and love in the family Victoria had tried to tear apart. Sophie had just received the incredible news that she earned a full scholarship to Preston Academy, a dream come true. That night, as the house settled into quiet, I found an envelope in the mail with Victoria's handwriting on it. Without hesitation, I tossed it into the fireplace and watched the flames consume it. Some people don't deserve second chances. A news alert flashed across my phone screen. Former socialite Victoria Harrison arrested for scamming elderly clients. I smiled as I turned off my phone. Victoria had spent her life tearing others down, and now she was living with the consequences. Meanwhile, we were thriving, free from her toxic shadow. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about rising above, reclaiming your happiness, and building something beautiful from the ashes of what they tried to destroy. What would you have done if someone tried to destroy your child's happiness and reputation? Would you have thrown Victoria's letter in the fireplace like I did, or would you have read it to see if she truly regretted her actions? It's hard to decide when toxic people creep back into our lives, claiming they changed. But can someone who systematically tried to ruin a child's self-esteem ever deserve forgiveness? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Hey everyone, I'm Erin. You've been asking about what happened with my sister-in-law, and trust me, it's a wild ride. Let me start from the beginning. Life wasn't always picture perfect. 10 years ago, I was just an 18-year-old trying to keep it together for my 2 younger brothers after our parents' car accident. I'll never forget standing in our tiny apartment kitchen, looking at Mike and Carl's hungry faces. We'll be okay, I promised, forcing a smile through my tears. We're staying together, no matter what. The next day, I got a job at Wonderland Park. The pay wasn't great, but the hours were flexible. Kids would come up and ask, "Miss, can you make the cotton candy look like a princess?" I'd turn it into a game, making them laugh while their parents recorded on their phones. One day, I decided to film myself at work. A day in the life of a sister mom. I posted it online, and the views exploded. People connected with our story. What started as a few followers quickly grew into hundreds, then thousands, and eventually millions. "Erin, your latest video made me cry," my coworker said one day. "The part about teaching Carl to ride a bike? So sweet." It was around then that James walked into my life. My friend Sarah brought him to the park one summer evening. "You must be the famous Erin," he said, smiling. "Sarah won't stop talking about your channel." We clicked instantly. He didn't see a girl from the wrong side of the tracks. He saw someone who fought for her family. 2 years later, we were standing at the altar. Mike, now 22, was our best man, and Carl, 18, couldn't stop grinning. That's when I met Patricia, James's sister. She hugged me at the reception, all smiles and designer perfume. "Welcome to the family, dear," she said sweetly. "James told us about your interesting background. So brave of you to share everything online." I felt the sting but smiled anyway. Later that night, I overheard her talking to James's mom. "Did you see her brothers? At least she managed to keep them out of trouble, considering where they came from." "They're honor students," I said, making her jump. "Carl just got accepted to Stanford on a full scholarship. James wrapped his arm around me, and Mike's starting his master's program next fall." Patricia's smile tightened. "How wonderful. You must be so proud of pulling yourself up from, well, you know." She walked off, dropping hints about my past to anyone who'd listen. If only she knew what was coming. That night, in our hotel room, James held me close. "Don't let her get to you, babe. You're the strongest person I know." "I'm not worried," I said, thinking of the millions of followers who loved our family's journey. Some people just can't stand to see others succeed. Little did Patricia know, her attempts to dig up dirt on me would backfire spectacularly. But that's a story for another day. The tension at James's parents' house was palpable. Over dinner, Patricia scrolled through her phone, a smug smile on her face. "Erin, sweetie," she said, her voice dripping with fox innocence. "Wasn't the Starlight Club near your old neighborhood? Such an interesting place." I kept my face neutral, focusing on my plate. James's mom shifted uncomfortably. Speaking of interesting places, Patricia continued, I ran into someone who said they knew you from back then. Said you were quite the performer. James's dad cleared his throat. Patricia, perhaps this isn't appropriate dinner conversation. Later that week, Mike burst into my house, breathless. Aaron, you won't believe what I just heard, he said. I was at the coffee shop near Patricia's office. She was there with some sketchy-looking guy. He was showing her old photos of you from the club. My heart sank. What did she say? She kept talking about a family reunion and how she'd show everyone the real you. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was Carl. Hey sis, heads up. Patricia's been asking around about you at my old high school. She even tried to contact my guidance counselor. Let her dig, I said, surprisingly calm. She won't find anything I'm ashamed of. The next family dinner was a disaster. Patricia accidentally left her laptop open, with old photos of me displayed on the screen. Oh, Aaron, Patricia exclaimed, her voice dripping with Fox concern. I hope those photos weren't too private. You know how quickly things can spread online. James's mom pulled me aside later, her brow furrowed. Dear, is everything okay? Patricia mentioned. Some concerns about your past. I met her gaze, unwavering. Mrs. Reynolds, I've always been honest about my life. You can ask James. That night, I discovered Patricia had contacted 3 of my old coworkers from the Starlight Club. My social media was flooded with friend requests from people I'd long tried to forget. You won't believe this, Mike texted. Patricia's planning something big for the reunion next month. She was on the phone talking about a presentation. James found me sitting in our bedroom, staring at old photos. He knelt beside me, his eyes full of understanding. Aaron, Mike told me everything. I exhaled, the weight of my past heavy on my chest. I had to do it, James. The hospital wouldn't treat Carl without a deposit. Dancing paid more in 3 months than Wonderland Park could in a year. He pulled me into a tight embrace. I know, babe. I always known. And now Patricia's about to learn that shaming someone for surviving is a dangerous game. A slow smile spread across my face. Patricia had no idea the trap she was setting for herself. Sometimes karma needs a little push, and she was about to get shoved. Carl called again that evening. Aaron, whatever Patricia's planning, we've got your back. No one messes with our sister. I hung up, feeling stronger than ever. Let Patricia think she had the upper hand. The higher she climbed, the harder she'd fall. The family reunion buzzed with laughter and chatter, the Reynolds' backyard alive with twinkling lights. Then Patricia dimmed them, silencing the crowd. My heart quickened as she stood before everyone, a projector at the ready, and that signature smirk plastered on her face. Family and friends, she began, feigning gravity, I have something important to share about our dear Aaron. The first slide flashed onto the screen, me in my old dancing outfit. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Before she trapped my brother, Patricia continued dramatically. Aaron lived quite a different life. Here she is at the Starlight Club. More photos followed, me counting bills, posing in costumes. And here's the best part, she said with a triumphant sneer. She was seeing 3 wealthy men while dating James. The silence was electric. Then James stood, squeezing my hand. Actually, Pat, those wealthy men were my business partners, he said calmly. You remember them, right? You borrowed money from them to cover your casino debts. Patricia's smug expression faltered. I don't know what you're talking about. Really? James pulled out his phone, his tone deadly cool. Let me refresh your memory. February 15th, you borrowed $50,000 from the company account. March 3rd, another $75,000. Funny how those dates line up with your Vegas trips. Patricia's face turned ghostly white. That's private information. Like Aaron's past? James shot back. The past she told me about on our 3rd date, the one where she danced to save her brother's life. Mr. Reynolds stood abruptly, his face a storm of anger. Patricia, what's this about company money? Daddy, I can explain. Like you explained how Aaron was a gold digger, James interjected smoothly, while you were embezzling from the family business. Mrs. Reynolds gasped. The missing client payments, that was you. I've been tracking the discrepancies for months, James continued. Every time money disappeared, you were on another Vegas trip. The casino receipts match perfectly. Patricia's hands trembled as she tried to shut off the projector. You don't understand, I was going to pay it back. Like you paid back the $30,000 you stole from Mom's retirement fund? James asked quietly. The crowd murmured in shock. The projector still displayed my old photos, but no one was looking at them anymore. I stood, my voice steady. I'm not ashamed of my past, Patricia. Every dollar I earned kept my family alive and together. What did your stolen money go to? Blackjack? Roulette? Patricia's voice broke. Aye. She turned to her father, but Mr. Reynolds was already on his phone. Yes, I need to report an embezzlement case, he said coldly. Daddy, please. Patricia collapsed into a chair, her mascara streaking down her cheeks. I watched as her carefully curated facade shattered. James wrapped an arm around me protectively. I told you about my past because I trust you, I whispered. He smiled, loud enough for everyone to hear. And I've never been more proud to be your husband. As the lights came back on, Patricia remained in the shadows, sobbing as her world crumbled around her. 2 weeks after the reunion, I stood by my kitchen window, watching her load the last box into her beaten-up Honda. The family guest house, where she lived rent-free for years, would soon be empty. Aaron, dear. Mrs. Reynolds appeared at my door, her eyes red and weary. We owe you an apology. We should have seen through Patricia's manipulation. You couldn't have known, I said, offering her a cup of coffee. I smiled. They're my greatest achievement. My phone buzzed with a message from Patricia's ex-fiancé. Just saw your video about what happened. I had no idea about the gambling. Thank you for saving me from a huge mistake. I glanced at my latest post, my past, my pride. It had already racked up 5 million views. The comment section overflowed with support. You turned dancing into an empire queen. Raised 2 brothers and built a business. Iconic. Patricia who? Only know Aaron the legend. The fallout for Patricia was swift. News of her embezzlement spread fast, and her law firm didn't take kindly to criminal charges. Last I heard, she was interviewing at fast food chains. Going live in 5, my producer called out. Since the scandal, my podcast Rising Above had skyrocketed in popularity. Today's topic, turning shame into success. Speaking into the microphone, I began. Sometimes people will try to use your past to destroy your future. But here's the truth. Every struggle is a story of survival. During a break, James brought me water. Guess who I saw at Walmart? He said. Patricia, he answered, amused. She's working as a cashier. How the mighty fall, I mused. Did she say anything? Nope. Just kept her head down. Pretty different from when she was flaunting those photos. That evening, my brothers came over. Carl beamed as he showed off his Stanford diploma, and Mike was brimming with excitement about his upcoming job at SpaceX. Remember when you used to make us hot dogs and call it steak? Carl laughed. Remember when Patricia said we'd end up in jail? Mike added with a smirk. Look at us now. As we reminisced, my phone lit up with a notification. Patricia had tried to follow my business Instagram. 7 million followers and counting while she struggled to make rent. Should I accept? I asked James. He chuckled. Let her watch from afar. I smiled, declining her request. Sometimes the best revenge is living well. I looked around at my beautiful life. A loving husband, successful brothers, a thriving career, supportive in-laws, and a platform that helped others rise above their struggles. You know what? I said, turning back to James. Some people need to learn that when you dig graves for others, you might just fall into one yourself. As my podcast intro music began, I leaned into the mic. Time for another episode of Turning Pain into Power. What would you do if someone tried to shame you for your survival story? Would you expose their secrets immediately or let them dig their own grave like I did? I'd love to hear your thoughts, especially if you've ever dealt with toxic family members trying to tear you down. Sometimes, the hardest part isn't surviving the struggle. It's facing the people who weaponize it against you. Drop it if you believe your past made you stronger, not weaker. Hi, everyone. I'm Patricia. So picture this. There I was, absolutely killing it at Johnson & Partners as their youngest marketing executive at just 29. Life was golden. I just landed the Miller account and the office was buzzing. That's actually how I met Lucas. He was the guy upgrading our software systems, a total tech whiz. Watching him geek out over coding was oddly mesmerizing. You're staring at the it guy again, Maria, my work bestie. whispered during a meeting, jabbing me with her elbow. Shut up. Am I that obvious? Girl, you might as well have hearts floating above your head. One coffee date turned into dinner. Dinner turned into lazy weekends together. Before I knew it, Lucas was down on one knee at our favorite rooftop restaurant. Everything felt like a dream until I met her. Andrew. Yes, Andrew. Lucas's sister. From day one, she had this way of making me feel 2 inches tall. Like when she leaned in at our first dinner together and cooed, "Oh, marketing. How creative." I always tell Mark we should let someone manage our real estate firm's social media. Maybe you could give us a friend discount. I smiled tightly. Actually, our firm handles major corporate accounts. She tilted her head, that fake sweet smile plastered across her face. Of course, sweetie, we all start somewhere. Thank God for Lucas's mom, Helen. She always stepped in when Andrew started sharpening her claws. Patricia's quite accomplished, Victoria, Helen said one evening. Not everyone needs to follow your path in life. But things really took a turn when the wedding planning began. Andrew showed up everywhere, uninvited. That venue won't work, she said at one appointment. Lucas had awful allergies there during my wedding. And those flowers? So basic. Here's my florist card. Maria was the first to call it out. Over lunch one day, she said, she changed your cake tasting appointment without telling you. That's not normal, Patricia. I don't know, I said, trying to shrug it off. Maybe she's just excited. She is his only sister. Or, Maria said, narrowing her eyes, maybe she can't stand not being the center of attention. Did you hear what she did at her cousin's baby shower? No, what? Announced her pregnancy right when they were opening gifts. Oh my God, she was pregnant? Spoiler alert, she wasn't. The tension grew worse when I landed another major account, while Andrew's real estate business hit a rough patch. She showed up to a family dinner looking like she just stepped off a soap opera set, her eyes red and puffy. It's just so hard, she said, sniffling dramatically, seeing everyone else succeed when we're having such a rough time. But I'm so happy for you, Patricia. Really. The way she said my name made my skin crawl. But Lucas just squeezed my hand under the table. Don't let her get to you, he whispered. She's always been dramatic. If only I'd known then how far her drama would go. A few weeks later, the nightmare began. Lucas stormed into the Cooper family living room, an envelope clutched in his hand. What kind of sick joke is this? He threw it onto the coffee table, and photos spilled out. Me and Mark, Andrew's husband, in what looked like intimate moments. My stomach dropped. I found them in Mark's desk drawer, Andrew said, her voice trembling with fake concern. I didn't want to believe it. But Patricia, how could you? These are fake, I said, my hands shaking as I grabbed the photos. They were from different family gatherings, clumsily edited but convincing enough to cast out. Our son deserves better than this, Helen said, her face flushed with anger. Please, you have to believe me, I pleaded. Someone's manipulated these photos. Lucas's voice cracked. The timestamps show these were taken last month during your late meetings. Those were client meetings. Maria was with me the whole time. Andrew sniffled, dabbing at her eyes. Maria works for you. She'd say anything. Robert, Lucas's father, stood up, his expression heavy with disappointment. The wedding needs to be postponed. We can't move forward with this cloud of suspicion. Then my phone buzzed and buzzed and buzzed. Somehow, the photos had been leaked to our social circle. Messages started pouring in. Did you see the photos? I can't believe Patricia would do this. Poor Lucas. We always knew she was too ambitious to settle down. The messages didn't stop. Friends I'd known for years turned into strangers overnight. Only Maria stood by me. This is absolute bullshit, Maria fumed as she paced my living room. Look at these photos. Anyone with eyes can see they're doctored. The lighting doesn't even match. I sat curled up on the couch, mascara streaked down my face. Nobody wants to hear it, I whispered. They all think I'm some kind of... My voice cracked. Stop it, Maria snapped. We're not playing into Andrew's game. She paused, a thought crossing her mind. You know what's weird? This reminds me of what happened with her old business partner's wife. Remember that scandal? I wiped my face, anger flickering through the despair. What scandal? Thomas Reed. His wife was accused of something similar, but the whole thing just vanished. Their partnership dissolved after that. You think Andrew was behind it? Maria folded her arms. Burl, I know she was. My cousin works in real estate. Andrew's got a reputation, but no one's brave enough to talk. Maybe it's time someone did, I said, sitting up straighter. Maria grinned. Now you're talking, and I know just the person. Emily Parker, private investigator. She's a wizard with digital forensics. As if on cue, my phone buzzed. A message from Lucas. I need more time to think. Maybe we should take a break. I showed Maria the text, my heart breaking all over again. Take all the time you need, Lucas, Maria said as she read over my shoulder. Then she smirked. Because when this is over, you'll be begging for forgiveness. And honey, you're not getting it. These photos were definitely manipulated, Emily Parker said, pointing to her computer screen. Look at these pixel inconsistencies. I'm at your work. Can you prove who did it? I asked, leaning forward. Better. The editing software license traces back to a freelancer who works for Andrew's real estate firm. And guess who's been paying him under the table? Just then, Maria burst into the office. You won't believe who just called me. Thomas Reed, Andrew's old business partner. He saw your name tied to Emily's investigation and says he's been waiting years for someone to expose her. 3 hours later, I sat across from Thomas at a quiet cafe, my hands gripping a cold coffee cup. She destroyed my marriage, my business, everything, he said, his voice heavy. She used doctored photos to convince investors I was embezzling funds. By the time I cleared my name, she'd stolen my client list and started her own firm. Why didn't you expose her? I asked. She had dirt on my brother's company. She threatened to leak it. But now, he slid a USB drive across the table. This proves she's been running a property flipping scheme, fake documents, fraudulent inspections. The works. Maria's research uncovered more victims. Andrew's college roommate driven out of their shared business. A cousin whose fiancé mysteriously called off their engagement after Andrew helpfully shared concerning texts. Emily called me late one night. I followed the money trail from Andrew's scams. Her firm's drowning in debt. But Mark? He's been moving serious cash through offshore accounts. What kind of cash? The kind that catches the SEC's attention. Insider trading, using his clients' investment info. Andrew's property schemes are just a cover. My phone buzzed again. Helen this time. We miss you, Patricia. Maybe if you just apologized. I typed back, still not feeling well. Need more time alone. Emily's voice pulled me back. Remember the freelancer who edited your photos? Turns out he's been working for Andrew for years. Family photos, business documents, even court records. And he kept receipts. Thomas called again. The SEC is very interested in Mark's trading activity. They just need more evidence. Tell them to wait, I said, my resolve hardening. I want Andrew exposed all at once. The annual Cooper family brunch is next month. Maria reminded me. Helen's been begging you to come. Perfect timing, I said. By then, we'll have everything. Emily looked up from her computer, her expression sharp. Speaking of timing, you won't believe this. Mark and Andrew are planning to sell the company and flee the country. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Then we better move fast. I smiled, a plan forming. Let them think they've got time. The Cooper family brunch was going to be unforgettable. Is everyone ready? I texted our group chat. Agents in position, Emily replied. Thomas and the others are waiting for your signal, Maria confirmed. With my head held high, I walked into the garden party, the scent of roses and freshly cut grass masking the tension building in the air. Andrew's smug smile faltered when she saw me. Patricia, she said, her voice syrupy. We didn't expect you. I wouldn't miss it, I replied coolly. Oh, and I brought some friends. Right on cue, Thomas Reed walked in, followed by a line of Andrew's past victims, her face drained of color. What is this? Andrew hissed, her composure slipping. Helen looked around, confused. Patricia, what's going on? Show them, I said to Emily. She connected her laptop to the garden projector, the screen flickering to life. These are the original, unedited photos from my supposed affair, Emily announced. The evidence played out in stark detail, timestamps, lighting inconsistencies, and finally, the payment receipt from Andrew to her Photoshop freelancer. Your guy kept excellent records. Andrew's voice cracked as she shrieked. She's lying. Like you lied about my company's finances? Thomas stepped forward, slamming a folder onto the table. These are forged documents, fake property inspections, and proof of embezzlement. Mark tried to quietly slip away, but two SEC agents blocked his path. Going somewhere, Mr. Cooper? One of them asked. We have some questions about those offshore accounts and insider trading. Andrew's mask shattered. She lunged at me, rage etched into her face. You set us up. Lucas caught her arm. Like you set up your college roommate? My cousin's engagement. How many lives have you destroyed, Andrew? Helen covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face as more victims stepped forward to share their stories. Robert's hands trembled as he read through Thomas's documents. Our daughter, he whispered, his voice breaking. How could you? Andrew's eyes blazed with defiance. I had to. Everyone always loved perfect Patricia Moore, even my own parents. Lucas turned to me, guilt and desperation in his eyes. Patricia, I'm so sorry. I should have believed you. I pulled my hand away. Yes, you should have. But you didn't. Please, he begged. We can fix this. I shook my head. No, Lucas. I fixed everything else. I turned to Maria, who grinned knowingly. We were ready to announce the launch of our new marketing firm, built on the ashes of Andrew's schemes. 6 months later, I watched Andrew's sentencing on TV. 5 years for fraud. Mark got 12 for insider trading. Their elaborate scams had made national headlines, shattering the Cooper family's reputation. Some people tear others down to feel bigger, but real success, that comes from rising above, working harder, and letting karma do its job. What would you have done in my position? Would you have exposed Andrew's crimes publicly at the family brunch, knowing it would humiliate the entire Cooper family, including innocent people like Helen and Robert? Or would you have quietly reported her, risking Andrew twisting the narrative yet again? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever faced a manipulator like Andrew? How did you handle it? Your stories could help someone else feel less alone. And if you want to hear more tales about standing up to toxic family dynamics and coming out stronger, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Sometimes the people who should protect us the most end up causing the deepest wounds. But we always have the power to heal and to fight back. My name is Karen Charles, and if there's one thing I've always strived for, it's making my family proud. My parents, mom and dad, raised us with strong values, family first, hard work, and always supporting one another. Those lessons shaped me into the person I am today, someone who fought her way up to marketing director at Anthony & Associates by the time I turned 32. My husband, Larry Chen, has been my unwavering support through it all. We met 5 years ago during a coffee shop mishap. He accidentally spilled his latte all over my meticulously prepared presentation papers. I was furious at first, but somehow, that chaotic moment turned into something beautiful. Larry has been my rock ever since. You're going to love Deborah. She's absolutely perfect. My brother Nathan had gushed 2 years ago about his then-girlfriend. Nathan, the ever-talented architect, met her at a client's office where she worked as an HR manager. I've never seen your brother this happy, Mom whispered to me during their engagement party. She was right. Nathan practically glowed whenever he was around Deborah, and she seemed like everything we could ask for in a new family member. The first 6 months after their wedding were like a dream. Deborah charmed everyone. She came to our weekly Sunday dinners with homemade desserts, thoughtful gifts, and a knack for making everyone feel special. My friends adored her. Karen, you're so lucky to have such an amazing sister-in-law, they'd say after meeting her at our social gatherings, and I agreed. Deborah seemed flawless, a radiant addition to the family. When a position opened up in the HR department at my company, I immediately thought of Deborah. Are you sure about this, honey? Larry asked one evening as I prepared her recommendation letter. Mixing family and business can be tricky. Of course, she's qualified, and it'll be great having her around. Plus, she's been talking about wanting a change, I said confidently. Our parents were thrilled. Sunday dinners felt more special with both couples there. Nathan would entertain us with stories about his latest architectural projects, while Larry and Deborah debated office politics and workplace dynamics. You used to draw building plans in crayon, I teased Nathan one night. And you made me play office with your stuffed animals, he shot back with a laugh. You two have such a special bond. Deborah chimed in, her smile warm. But looking back, perhaps it hid something darker. I didn't realize it at the time, but Deborah's kindness was a mask. Behind those perfect smiles and thoughtful gestures, she was already scheming to destroy everything I held dear. The first sign came during our company's annual marketing summit. I was presenting a critical campaign to potential clients when I noticed Deborah whispering to our biggest client's wife. "I just thought you should know what kind of person is handling your husband's account." Deborah's voice carried across the room during a pause in my presentation. The client's wife turned red and left abruptly. Days later, the client pulled their account. 3 years of work gone. Larry found me crying in the kitchen that evening. "They pulled their account, Larry," I said through tears. 3 years of effort, and now it's all gone." "Did they say why?" he asked, pulling me into his arms. "The wife accused me of having an affair with her husband," I whispered, barely believing the words myself. The rumors spread like wildfire. I overheard whispers in the break room. "I heard Karen sleeps with her clients," one voice said. "No wonder she's so successful," another replied. When I tried to talk to Nathan about Deborah's behavior, his response floored me. "Maybe you're just jealous that she's doing well in HR, he said coolly. "Are you serious, Nate? She's spreading lies about me?" I snapped. "There you go again, making everything about you," he shot back. "Deborah told me how you're constantly undermining her at work. How you're always showing off your position. Tensions have been brewing for weeks, and Sunday dinner at my parents' house only made things worse. Mom, ever perceptive, finally said what everyone was thinking. You two barely look at each other anymore. What's going on?" Nathan muttered under his breath. "Ask your perfect daughter. She's probably upset about how Deborah breathes too loudly or something." "That's not fair," I began, but Deborah cut me off with her syrupy, fake sweet voice. "Oh, it's nothing serious," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Karen's just been under a lot of pressure at work. Some clients have been difficult." The way she lingered on the word difficult made my blood boil, but I bit my tongue for Mom's sake. The final straw came during the biggest project of my career. I'd spent months developing a revolutionary marketing campaign for a major tech giant, a project that could redefine our company's future. But on the morning of the pitch, disaster struck. My competitors somehow had our entire presentation, down to the last detail. The room was buzzing with whispers before I even began, and I knew something was wrong. My boss called me into his office later that day, his tone sharp. "Care to explain how our confidential pitch ended up in every major agency's inbox?" I froze. "What? That's impossible. Only my team had access. And HR," he added, the implication clear. That evening, Deborah had the audacity to text me. "Heard about the pitch. Such a shame when things don't work out. Maybe stick to smaller clients next time." I showed the message to Nathan, hoping he'd finally see what she was doing. "She's just trying to be supportive in her own way," he said defensively. "Supportive? She's destroying everything I've worked for." Nathan glared at me. "See, this is exactly what Deborah means. You always think everyone's out to get you. Maybe if you weren't so focused on being perfect all the time." I watched him walk away, blind to the manipulation. That night, another message from Deborah buzzed on my phone. "Family dinner this Sunday should be interesting. Hope you're ready for what's coming." Her words felt like a threat, and I knew she wasn't done. The Crystal Room at Lizen was packed for my parents' 35th wedding anniversary. It should have been a joyful celebration, but I couldn't ignore the storm brewing. Deborah, wine glass in hand, grew louder with every refill. "A toast," she slurred, raising her glass. "To perfect marriages." She glanced at me with a mocking smile. "Like Karen's picture-perfect life with Larry. Some of us aren't so lucky, right, Nathan?" Nathan leaned toward her, whispering, "Maybe you should slow down." "Why?" she snapped. "So your sister can keep pretending she's better than everyone." Her voice cut through the room, always the golden child. The perfect daughter, perfect wife, perfect everything. Mom tried to calm her. "Sweetheart, let's focus on celebrating." "Oh, I am celebrating," Deborah interrupted, stumbling to her feet and grabbing her purse. "Celebrating the fact that I finally have proof of what a manipulative witch your daughter really is." She pulled out a stack of papers, waving them dramatically. "Look what I found, emails between Karen and Nathan. She's been telling him to leave me for months." "That's not true." I stood, my heart pounding. Nathan, I haven't even been able to reach you for weeks because I blocked her number, Deborah interrupted with a smirk. She turned to Nathan. For your own good, baby. Look at these messages she sent. Nathan grabbed the papers, his face shifting as he read. These dates. I never received these emails. And this isn't Karen's email address. This is a fake account. What? Deborah's smug expression faltered. And these responses, I never wrote these. He stared at her, his voice breaking. Deborah, what did you do? The room fell silent until Maria, Deborah's assistant, stepped forward hesitantly. I can't stay quiet anymore, she said, pulling out her phone. I have something everyone needs to see. She pressed play on a video. Deborah's voice rang out clearly. I want every email between Nathan and his sister intercepted. Forward them to me before deleting them. And send these fake responses from the account I created. Karen Charles needs to learn her place. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Nathan's face went ashen. You've been intercepting my messages, he whispered, making me think Karen was ignoring me. I had to. Deborah cried. She was turning you against me. She's always been jealous of our marriage. Jealous? I said, unable to hold back. You've been spreading lies about me, sabotaging my projects, and tearing my relationships apart, and I'm the jealous one. Maria stepped forward again. She also leaked the Thompson campaign details to competitors. I have the emails proving it. Nathan turned to Deborah, his voice cold. We're done. Don't bother coming home tonight. The room buzzed with whispers as Deborah stood frozen, her mask finally shattered. Nathan turned to me, tears in his eyes. Karen, I'm so sorry. I should have seen it sooner. Dad put his arms around both of us, just like he used to when we were kids. The truth always comes out, he said softly. Always. A week after the disastrous restaurant scene, I was called into HR to give my statement. Security footage had caught Deborah accessing confidential files after hours and tampering with employee communications. Maria provided a meticulous record of every illegal action she'd witnessed, and the case against Deborah was ironclad. All harassment claims have been substantiated, my boss announced during a company-wide meeting. Deborah Miller has been terminated, effective immediately. That evening, Nathan called me. His voice was shaking. I just got off the phone with my bank. She's been stealing from our joint accounts for months, nearly $60,000. Gone. Oh my God, Nathan, what are you going to do? I filed for divorce this morning, he said, his voice heavy. But that's not all. Remember when she claimed her old boss was harassing her? Turns out, she was the one harassing her coworkers. They've been warning potential employers about her for years. By the next Sunday dinner, the first peaceful one in months, Nathan had uncovered even more. She had a whole folder of fake emails, manipulated photos, even a list of people she planned to turn against me, he confessed, shaking his head. I was such a fool. You weren't a fool, Mom said gently, squeezing his hand. You were in love with the person she pretended to be. That evening, my phone buzzed with a text from Maria. Thought you'd want to know. Deborah's been job hunting, but her harassment record follows her everywhere. No one will touch her. 2 months later, I finally got the promotion I'd been working so hard for. During the celebration dinner, Nathan raised his glass. To my sister, he said, his voice filled with gratitude, who never stopped being there for me, even when I pushed her away. After dinner, Dad called us all into the living room. Just got word from Uncle Steve, he began. Deborah's moved back in with her parents. No job, no money, no friends left. Even her own family barely speaks to her after learning what she did. I heard she tried starting rumors about me at other companies, I added, but no one believes her anymore. Her reputation's destroyed. Karma, Mom said, surprising us all. Not that I wish her ill, but sometimes people create their own punishment. Nathan looked at the family photos on the wall, real memories, not the fake perfection Deborah had tried to manufacture. You know what's funny, he said. She was so worried about you ruining her marriage, Karen. But in the end, she destroyed everything. All by herself. Looking around at my family, stronger and closer than ever, I realized something. Despite all the pain and chaos Deborah had caused, she had given us a gift. Sometimes it takes facing someone's worst to fully appreciate the best in those who truly love you. Hi, everyone. I'm Linda, 29 years old, and a marketing executive with a story that's been eating at me. I'm sitting in my cozy, if cramped, apartment flipping through old photos of me and my big brother, Mike. We've always been close. After our parents split, it was just the two of us against the world. Now he's getting married to Susan, and while I'm trying to be thrilled for him, something feels off. Hey sis, you got a sec? Mike's voice crackles through the phone. For you? Always? What's up? It's about the wedding. Susan was wondering if you could help with some of the planning. I bite my lip. Sure thing. What does she need? As Mike rattles off tasks, I feel a twinge of unease. Susan comes from this uber-wealthy family, and sometimes it feels like she looks down on us. But hey, this is Mike's big day. I can deal. Later that week, I find myself at their sprawling place, surrounded by wedding magazines and seating charts. Susan breezes in, all designer clothes and picture-perfect hair. Oh, Linda, you're here. Great. Her smile doesn't quite reach her eyes. I hope you don't mind, but I've made some changes to the plans we discussed. I force a smile. No problem. What did you have in mind? As she talks, I notice how she keeps saying people like us when referring to her affluent friends. It stings, but I brush it off. This day is about Mike. Then the doorbell rings. Enter Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, Susan's parents, losing wealth and a thinly veiled superiority. Ah, Linda, is it? Mr. Thompson eyes me up and down. Mike's sister. How quaint. Mrs. Thompson chimes in, her tone cerebral but sharp. Susan, darling, are you sure it's wise to involve family in the planning? These things are best left to professionals. My cheeks burn, but before I can respond, Mike steps in. Linda's been a huge help, actually. We couldn't do this without her. I shoot him a grateful look, but a sinking feeling tells me this is just the beginning. Later that night, I'm venting to my boyfriend, Jason, over takeout. I don't know, Jace. Something feels off about Susan and her family. He squeezes my hand. It's okay to be protective of Mike. Just give it time. I nod, but deep down, I'm not convinced. As the wedding day looms closer, I throw myself into my maid of honor duties, determined to make it perfect for Mike. Still, every interaction with Susan and the Thompsons leaves me feeling like I'm losing my brother to a world that doesn't want me in it. Finally, the big day arrives. I'm running around, doing my best to keep everything on track. Straighten Mike's tie, quick pep talk, check on Susan. Thanks, Linda, she says coolly. Try not to mess anything up, okay? I brush off the comment, forcing a smile. But during the ceremony, I can't help noticing the whispers and sideways glances from Susan's family. Mrs. Thompson's disapproving stares are practically daggers. At the reception, I duck into the bathroom to fix my makeup. That's when I hear it. Did you see what Linda's wearing? It looks like she got it from a thrift store, Mrs. Thompson says, her voice dripping with disdain. My cheeks flush as I step out, coming face to face with her. She doesn't even flinch. Oh, Linda, dear, she says loudly, feigning innocence. We were just discussing your interesting dress choice. It must be hard to find something suitable on a budget. I open my mouth to respond, but Mr. Thompson interrupts. So Linda, Mike tells us you work in marketing. That must be challenging for someone with your background. Did you even finish college? I have a degree from. Susan cuts in, laughing lightly. Oh, Daddy, don't you remember? Linda's the one who had that adorable little speech problem as a kid. What was it you used to say, Linda? What's P? They all burst into laughter. My stomach drops. I glance around, desperate for an ally, but Mike's across the room, looking uncomfortable. Jason appeared at my side, his face dark with anger. Hey, back off. Linda's twice the person any of you will ever be. Mr. Thompson sneered. And who might you be? The hired help? Jason squared his shoulders. I'm Linda's boyfriend, and I won't stand here while you insult her. The room grew tense as the argument escalated. Susan's family hurled insults, their words cutting like knives, while Jason stood his ground, defending me fiercely. Through it all, Mike stood there, silent and visibly uncomfortable. I couldn't take it anymore. Tears streaming down my face, I grabbed my purse and ran out of the reception hall. Jason called after me, but I couldn't stop. I drove home in a daze, my mind replaying every cruel word and most painfully, Mike's deafening silence. How could he just stand there? How could he let them treat me like that? At home, still in my bridesmaid dress, I collapsed onto the couch. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Mike. My heart leaped. Maybe this was an apology, an explanation, anything. Instead, the message read, "Hey, things got pretty intense. Maybe it's best if you give us some space for a while." I stared at the screen in disbelief. Space? After what just happened? "You can't be serious," I typed back. "They insulted me, mocked me, and you did nothing." His response came quickly. "It's complicated, Linda. Just let things cool down, okay?" I threw my phone across the room, feeling like my heart had been ripped out. My brother, my rock, the one person I thought I could always count on, had chosen them over me. Jason showed up an hour later, worry etched on his face. "Linda, I'm so sorry. What they did was unforgivable." I collapsed into his arms, sobbing. "He didn't even defend me, Jason. He just stood there." Jason held me tightly. "You don't deserve this. None of it." But as I cried in his arms, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. Something had shifted. Something darker was brewing. The weeks that followed were unbearable. Mike's silence was deafening, and when we did talk, he felt like a stranger. At a family barbecue, I overheard one of our cousins whispering, "Did you hear what Mike and Susan are saying about Linda? Apparently, she's jealous and tried to ruin their wedding." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. That night, I couldn't sleep. Why was Mike doing this? This wasn't him. "Jason, something's not right," I said the next morning. "I need to figure out what's going on with the Thompsons." He nodded, determination in his eyes. "I'm with you. Where do we start?" We began with Mr. Thompson's company. Jason, being a tech whiz, managed to find financial records that didn't add up. "Linda, look at this," he said, pointing to the screen. "They're cooking the books." The deeper we dug, the more patterns emerged. Fraud, embezzlement, shady dealings. The Thompsons were neck-deep in corruption. But that wasn't all. I reached out to anyone who might know more about Susan's past. My old college roommate, Emma, dropped a bombshell. "Linda, I hate to tell you this, but Susan dated my cousin. She isolated him from his family, maxed out his credit cards, and dumped him the moment she found someone wealthier." The pieces began to fall into place. Susan wasn't just manipulative. She was dangerous. One evening, Mike's best friend Tom called me. "Linda, I'm worried about Mike. The other day, I overheard Susan and her parents pressuring him to cut you out completely. They're saying you're a bad influence." My blood ran cold. "Thanks for telling me, Tom. I appreciate it." Jason called me over one night, his face grim. "Look at this," he said, showing me bank statements. "They've been transferring Mike's money into accounts they control. They're trying to trap him." I felt sick. "We need to stop them, Jason. We need to save Mike." As we pieced everything together, a horrifying picture emerged. The Thompsons were isolating Mike, controlling his finances, and possibly planning to use him as a scapegoat for their crimes. "Linda," Jason said, his voice serious, "this is bigger than we thought. We need to be careful how we handle this." I nodded, my determination hardening. "I know, but I'm not giving up on Mike. We're going to expose them and get my brother back." Looking at the mountain of evidence we gathered, I knew one thing. This was war. The Thompsons had money, power, and my brother under their thumb. They didn't know who they were messing with. I muttered, my voice low but steady. "Get ready, Thompsons. You picked the wrong family to mess with." Little did I know, the confrontation that was coming would change everything. The truth was about to explode into their perfect world, and there was no turning back. The day of reckoning had finally arrived. I had spent weeks planning this family gathering, making sure every detail was in place. As I stood in Aunt Martha's living room, surrounded by family and old friends, a mix of nervousness and steely determination gripped me. Mike walked in first, with Susan and the Thompsons trailing behind him. The tension in the room was suffocating. "What's all this about, Linda?" Mike asked, his voice wary but curious. I took a deep breath, the weight of what I was about to do sinking in. "It's time for the truth to come out, Mike. All of it." I started with the financial evidence, the fraudulent business practices of Mr. Thompson, emails, records, and clear evidence of their illegal activities. Gasps filled the room as the truth came to light. "This is preposterous," Mr. Thompson sputtered, his face turning red. "You have no right." But I wasn't finished. I hit play on a recording of Susan and her parents plotting to isolate Mike and control his finances. Susan's cold voice echoed through the room. Once we cut off that sister of his, we'll have total control. He'll never know what hit him. Mike's face drained of color, his eyes locked on Susan, disbelief written all over him. Is this true? Before she could answer, I dropped the final bombshell. Susan's past relationships, the manipulation, the financial abuse, all of it. You've been lying to me this whole time, haven't you? Mike's voice cracked, his world crumbling. The Thompsons tried to fight back, calling me jealous, unstable, anything to discredit me. But the room was on my side. Family and friends stood firm, backing up my claims with their own observations. Just when Mr. Thompson started threatening legal action, there was a knock at the door. 2 police officers entered. Mr. Thompson, we have some questions about your company's financial practices. As the officers led Mr. Thompson away in handcuffs, the room erupted into chaos. Amidst it all, Mike approached me, tears in his eyes. Linda, I'm so sorry. I should have listened to you. I should have stood up for you. Part of me wanted to pull him into a hug, to tell him it was all okay. But the hurt was still too fresh. I needed more than an apology. I appreciate that, Mike, I said, my voice steady but guarded. But it's going to take time to rebuild what we lost. Mike nodded, understanding the boundaries I was setting. As the dust settled, I watched the Thompsons being questioned by the police. Susan, suddenly abandoned by her family, tried to plead with Mike. Baby, please, we can work this out. I love you. But Mike stood firm. No, Susan, we're done. I want a divorce. The following days brought the full extent of the Thompsons' crimes to light. They faced serious legal consequences, their carefully crafted facade crumbling around them. As for Mike and me, we began the slow, painful process of rebuilding our relationship. It wasn't easy. There were many tough conversations ahead. But we both wanted to heal. One evening, as Jason and I watched the news report on the Thompsons' arrests, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. You did it, Linda, Jason said, squeezing my hand. You stood up for yourself and saved your brother. I smiled, relief and pride flooding through me. We did it. I couldn't have done it without you. Looking back on everything that had happened, I realized how much I'd grown. I had learned to trust my instincts, to stand up for myself, and to uncover the truth, even when it meant tearing apart everything I'd known. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but with Jason by my side and my relationship with Mike on the mend, I felt stronger than ever. The Thompsons had thought they could break me, but they only made me stronger. As I watched them face justice for their actions, I knew one thing for sure. Sometimes karma really does come through in the end. If you were in Mike's shoes, would you ever be able to forgive Linda for exposing your spouse and in-laws, even if they were manipulating you? Or would you resent her for destroying your marriage, no matter the truth? Hi, everyone. I'm Christina William, a 32-year-old marketing executive juggling a career, motherhood, and the ongoing challenge of trying to win over my mother-in-law, Pamela. Spoiler alert, it's not going great. My daughter, Maria, just turned 5, and she's the absolute light of my life. You'd think that a successful career and a beautiful, happy child would count for something. But to Pamela, it's as though I'm failing some invisible test. Michael could have married someone who prioritized family over work, she declared during our last Sunday dinner, jabbing at the roast I'd spent hours perfecting. Michael, my peacekeeping husband, quickly jumped in. Mom, Christina works hard for our family. And yet, he always found a way to change the subject, leaving me to absorb Pamela's icy glare while Rebecca, my sister-in-law, nodded enthusiastically beside her, as if auditioning for a role as Pamela's shadow. Christina's doing a wonderful job balancing everything, my father-in-law, Thomas, said in my defense. Bless him, he's the lone voice of support in this family minefield. It wasn't just the dinners. It was the constant microaggressions. Take last month's family gathering. Rebecca hovered by the table I had meticulously set up and announced with a sugary smile. Oh, Christina, your setup is interesting. Let me fix it the way Mom prefers. She didn't even wait for a response before rearranging everything. But Thomas intervened, his voice steady. Actually, I asked Christina to do it this way. It reminds me of how my mother used to do it. The look on Rebecca's face, priceless. Yet, she didn't stop there. Later, she suggested, Mom's just traditional Christina. Maybe if you did things her way, you'd get along better. I kept my tone calm. Thanks, Rebecca, but we all have our own ways of showing love to family. But behind the calm exterior, I'd started keeping receipts, text messages, photos, and even security footage. Call me paranoid, but something told me I needed to protect myself. Like the time Pamela claimed I'd forgotten Maria's doctor's appointment. I pulled up her text, which clearly showed she'd given me the wrong date. Actually, Pamela, I said at dinner, holding up my phone, you told me Thursday. Would you like to see it? Her face went pale, but the satisfaction was fleeting. Despite all the drama, I kept hosting, kept trying. Maybe I was too stubborn to give up. But as Thanksgiving approached, I didn't realize I was nearing my breaking point. It started innocently enough. Rebecca offered to help with dinner. Let me help, Christina. We should bond more as sisters. I hesitated but decided to give her the benefit of the doubt. Sure, Rebecca. You can handle the sides while I finish the turkey. While I ran upstairs to help Maria find her stuffed rabbit, Rebecca stayed behind in the kitchen. When I returned, everything seemed fine. But during dinner, chaos erupted. Pamela spat out her green bean casserole dramatically. Are you trying to poison us? She gasped. Uncle Jim choked on the potatoes, guzzling water. I can't believe this, Pamela announced. My son married a complete failure. Mortified, I couldn't figure out what had gone wrong. I had tasted everything. It was perfect. Later that night, I checked the kitchen security footage. What I saw floored me. Rebecca, dumping heaping spoonfuls of salt into every dish while I was upstairs. But the craziest part, my friend Lisa had been video chatting with her mom while helping me prep earlier. The next day, she sent me her recording. In the background, clear as day, Rebecca was caught sabotaging the food. It didn't end there. At work the following week, I uncovered discrepancies in a new client's accounts. Rebecca's company. Thousands of dollars were unaccounted for, and guess who managed those accounts? To top it off, my cousin Amy called. Christina, you need to hear this. Aunt Pamela's been telling everyone. The weight of years of betrayal and manipulation came crashing down on me as I sat at my desk, staring at the evidence in front of me. My blood boiled as I pieced it all together. The lies, the deceit, the games Pamela and Rebecca had been playing with our entire family. This wasn't just about a ruined Thanksgiving dinner. It was a tangled web of destruction that had festered for years. She's been spreading lies about all of us. Amy had said earlier on the phone, her voice trembling. Grandma thinks Uncle Steve has a gambling problem because of Pamela. Steve's wife is convinced he's cheating. And Rebecca, she's been enabling all of it. Christina, how long has this been going on? Years, I replied, the fury building. It was also clear now. Every snide comment, every rumor, every wedge driven between us. It all led back to them. I stared at my laptop, the security footage playing on one screen, the incriminating company accounts open on another. For years, I'd taken the high road, biting my tongue, trying to keep the peace. And for what? To let them keep walking all over me and everyone I cared about? Not anymore. Amy, I said firmly, it's time for a family meeting, a real one, without Pamela and Rebecca. The tension was palpable as the family gathered in my living room. I connected my laptop to the TV, standing before them with years of suppressed anger and newfound resolve. Before I play this, I began, my voice steady. I want you to know this isn't about revenge. It's about truth. The footage rolled. There was Rebecca, caught red-handed, sabotaging the Thanksgiving dishes. Lisa's voice from her video chat provided an undeniable timestamp. Gasps filled the room. That evil little. Emmy hissed under her breath. Michael's face turned crimson. I can't believe my own sister wailed. There's more, I said, pulling out a folder thick with receipts, texts, photos, and recordings. Pamela has been playing all of us against each other. Emmy, remember that affair rumor? It started with her. Here's the proof. Thomas, my father-in-law, stood up, his hands trembling. All these years, I've been supporting them, defending them. Did you know Pamela gambled away her entire inheritance? She's been living off my retirement savings, claiming it was invested in real estate. Dad, Michael began, his voice breaking. No, son, it's time you knew the truth. Your mother has been manipulating this family for decades, and Rebecca, she's just following in her footsteps. I took a deep breath. One last thing. At work, I discovered Rebecca's been embezzling from her company. I've already reported it anonymously. The room erupted. Decades of lies and manipulation spilled out as everyone began sharing their stories. It was as if the floodgates had opened and the truth couldn't be stopped. Then, my phone buzzed. Pamela. I put her on speaker. How dare you hold a family meeting without us? She hissed. Rebecca told me everything. You're just jealous of her success. Michael grabbed the phone. Success? You mean the money she stole from her company? Pamela sputtered. That's a lie. Rebecca would never. Like she would never sabotage Christina's Thanksgiving dinner? Mom, we have it all on video. All of it. Pamela's voice cracked. You don't understand. Everything I've done was for this family. No, Mom, Michael said coldly. Everything you've done was for yourself. And it's over. The fallout was swift and merciless. The next day, Rebecca's company launched a full investigation. Her colleagues avoided her like the plague, and her job was gone within days. Pamela's bridge club uninvited her after hearing about her gossiping and manipulation. Thomas called his bank and confirmed his worst fears. The real estate investments were a lie. Every penny had gone to slot machines and blackjack tables. I've already contacted a divorce lawyer, Thomas told me. I should have done this years ago. Christina, I'm sorry I let them hurt you for so long. That night, Michael held me close. I've been such a coward, he whispered, always trying to keep the peace instead of standing up for what's right. Never again. I watched Maria sleeping peacefully in her bed, finally free from her grandmother's manipulation and her aunt's jealousy. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. Then my phone buzzed again, a text from Rebecca. We need to talk. Please, I can explain everything. I stared at it for a long moment before hitting block. Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. 3 months later, the headlines hit the local paper. Marketing executive charged in $200,000 embezzlement scheme. Rebecca's mugshot was plastered on the front page. Not only had her company fired her, but they also pressed charges. 200 grand. I always knew she'd been stealing. The amount still shocked me. $200,000 stolen. Rebecca's greed had known no bounds. Over coffee, Amy filled me in on the aftermath. Did you hear? Her mortgage application got denied. She's moving to Arizona. Apparently, she can't even afford to rent around here anymore. Everyone knows what she did. Meanwhile, Thomas uncovered yet another betrayal. Pamela had secretly mortgaged their house to cover her gambling debts. The divorce papers landed on her prized designer handbag like a bomb. She lost everything. She blew 20 years of savings at the M-Gym, Thomas told me during Sunday dinner, our new tradition, just the real family. And she didn't stop there. She kept borrowing more. Pamela ended up in a tiny one-bedroom apartment above the dollar store. Last I heard, she was working the register at Walmart. Her so-called friends, the ones she'd schemed so hard to impress, dropped her the moment the truth came out. Then, as if on cue, my phone started buzzing. Messages from Rebecca. Christina, please. I'm your sister-in-law. Family forgives. Please delete the report. I've changed, I promise. Just give me another chance. Block. Life, meanwhile, moved on beautifully. A promotion landed in my lap. Senior VP of Marketing. Michael and I celebrated by taking Maria to Disney World. Watching her face light up on Space Mountain, I knew I'd done the right thing. One day, Maria asked me a question that gave me pause. Mommy, why don't we see Grandma Pamela anymore? I knelt down to her level. Sometimes, sweetheart, people who say they love you actually hurt you, and it's okay to keep those people out of your life. She nodded, wise beyond her years. Like when Jenny was mean to me at school, and you said I didn't have to be her friend anymore. Exactly like that, baby. Our holidays are peaceful now. No more walking on eggshells, no more checking security cameras. Thomas visits often, and he's even found happiness with Helen, a warm-hearted woman who knows how to love without keeping score. Amy ran into Rebecca at a gas station off I-95 last month. She's working as a telemarketer now, Amy said, shaking her head. It's her third job this year. Oh, and Pamela, her manager at Walmart, wrote her up for being rude to customers. Old habits die hard, I guess. Last night, as we watched Maria playing in the backyard, Michael wrapped his arms around me. You know what's funny, he said. Mom always said you weren't good enough for this family. Turns out you were too good. I smiled, thinking of the last message I sent before blocking Pamela and Rebecca for good. I don't keep toxic people in my life anymore. Some might call it karma. I call it consequences. Either way, I'm just grateful my daughter will grow up knowing her worth, understanding that love doesn't come with strings attached, and realizing that sometimes the best revenge is simply living well. Now I want to hear from you. What would you do if you caught someone sabotaging your reputation while pretending to be family? Would you expose them immediately or wait to gather more proof? And here's another tough one. At what point does keeping the peace turn into enabling toxic behavior? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I respond to every comment and love hearing your stories. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for more real-life tales about overcoming toxicity and coming out stronger. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Remember, the greatest act of self-love is knowing when to walk away. Hey there, I'm Pamela. I'm 29, armed with a marketing degree, and currently job hunting like it's a full-time gig. Because, spoiler alert, it basically is. It's been a rough few months without work, but I've got a big interview lined up at a swanky marketing firm downtown, James & Co. It feels like my shot at finally turning things around. Family's supposed to have your back, right? At least that's what I always believed. My older sister, Nancy, and I have always been close, sharing clothes, borrowing makeup, and dishing about everything under the sun. Her husband, Jack, has always felt more like a brother than an in-law. Last night, we were all gathered around the dinner table at my parents' house, enjoying Mom's lasagna, her masterpiece. I couldn't keep it to myself any longer. Guys, I've got news, I blurted, practically bouncing in my seat. What is it, sweetie? Mom asked, her fork hovering midair. I landed an interview at James & Co. It's this Thursday. The room erupted with congratulations. Mom was already plotting my outfit. Dad looked proud enough to burst, and Nancy, well, her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. That's great, Pam, she said, squeezing my hand. You'll knock them dead. But something in her tone felt off, like a faint crack in her usual enthusiasm. As the night went on, little things started to stick out. Jack was quieter than usual, pushing his food around his plate. When the conversation turned to money, because it always does when you're job hunting, I caught a quick glance exchanged between him and Nancy. Worry? Guilt? Frustration? I couldn't pin it down, but it lingered. Later that night, sprawled out on my bed, I spilled everything to my best friend, Zoe. Zoe, this could be it. The job, the salary, the fresh start. Okay, maybe not the corner office right away, but you get me. She laughed on the other end. Girl, you've got this in the bag. Just breathe, okay. I know, I said, rolling my eyes even though she couldn't see. It's just, Nancy was acting weird. And Jack? He looked like someone stole his lunch money. Maybe they're stressed about their own stuff, Zoe suggested. Don't let it throw you off. This is your moment, Pam. You're right, I said, brushing away the nagging feeling. Enough about that. Help me pick out an outfit. Thursday morning came faster than I expected. I woke up before my alarm, excitement and nerves tangled in my stomach. I went through my prep ritual, hair perfect, outfit on point, resume triple-checked. I grabbed a to-go coffee and headed out, feeling invincible. The drive downtown was a blur of pep talks and deep breaths. When I arrived at the sleek James & Co. building, I felt a rush of confidence. You've got this, I whispered, smoothing my blazer one last time. Inside, I was greeted by a sharply dressed woman in her 40s. Her smile was polite, but her eyes didn't match the warmth of her words. Red flag number 1. Miss Carter, please have a seat, she said, gesturing toward the chair across from her. Thank you, I said, trying to sound calm. We have some concerns to address before we begin, she said, sliding a folder onto the desk. My stomach dropped. Concerns. We received an anonymous email this morning with some troubling information about you. Her voice was crisp, her tone all business. Can you explain your criminal record? I blinked, completely blindsided. I'm sorry, what? Your criminal record, she repeated, her expression hardening. And while we're at it, perhaps you'd like to address the substance abuse allegations outlined here. My breath caught in my throat. There must be some mistake, I stammered, my heart pounding. I don't have a criminal record, and I certainly don't have any substance abuse issues. She didn't look convinced. Miss Carter, we take these claims very seriously. If you're not going to be honest with us. I am being honest. I interrupted, my voice rising in panic. There's been some kind of mistake. Please, can I see this email? The interviewer shook her head, her expression unchanged. I'm afraid that's confidential. Look, Miss Carter, I think it's best if we end this here. And just like that, it was over. I stumbled out of the office in a daze, barely remembering to thank the receptionist on my way out. My legs felt like lead as I made it to the parking lot, where I fumbled for my phone with shaking hands. Zoe, I choked up as soon as she picked up. It was a disaster. A complete and utter disaster. Pam, slow down. What happened? I spilled everything, my words tumbling out in a frantic rush. Zoe stayed quiet, letting me unload the nightmare of an interview. Okay, she said once I ran out of steam. Let's think about this logically. Someone's clearly set you up. But who and why? My mind raced, flipping through possibilities. Who would go out of their way to sabotage me like this? I don't know, Zoe, I whispered, voice cracking. I just don't know. All right, here's the plan, Zoe said, slipping into problem-solving mode. You're coming over to my place. I'll grab some ice cream, you grab some wine, and we'll figure this out. There's got to be a trail, emails, phone calls, something. Her confidence steadied me. Yeah, okay, thanks, Zoe. I don't know what I'd do without you. Later that night, Zoe and I went into full detective mode. Armed with rocky road and sheer determination, we started digging. And what we found made my stomach churn. First, my email. Someone had hacked into it, reading my messages, sending sketchy ones. The violation felt personal, invasive, like someone rooting through my diary. This is next-level creep stuff, I muttered, scrolling through my sent folder. Then Zoe froze. Oh, Pam. Since when do you have a Facebook page called Pamela's Wild Nights? I nearly choked on my wine. I don't. But there it was, a profile littered with photoshopped pictures of me doing cake stands, smoking, and God knows what else. The final blow? We discovered someone had made anonymous calls to James & Co., spinning scandalous stories that would make a tabloid blush. This is insane, I whispered, my head spinning. Who'd go to all this trouble? The answer hit me like a freight train. No, it couldn't be. But the more I thought about it, the more it clicked. Nancy's weird behavior at dinner. Her hollow congratulations. Jack's unease. The next day, I confronted her. Nancy, I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. Did you have anything to do with sabotaging my interview? Her eyes widened. What? Pam, how could you even think that? Her voice hit that high-pitched note it always did when she was lying. The same one she used in high school when she denied stealing my favorite lip gloss. I wasn't buying it, but I needed proof. Enter Ryan, my tech-savvy cousin. Leave it to me, he said, cracking his knuckles like a hacker in a spy movie. 2 days later, Ryan called me over. You're not going to like this, Pam. He showed me the digital breadcrumbs, emails, fake profiles, and anonymous calls, all leading back to Nancy's devices. But why? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Ryan shrugged, looking grim. That's something you'll have to ask her. Later that night, I got my answer. Jack's raised voice carried through the phone as I passed their living room window. Words like payments and deadlines caught my ear. It hit me all at once. Jack had a gambling problem. They were drowning in debt. Suddenly, Nancy's actions made a twisted kind of sense. She wasn't just jealous or spiteful. She was desperate. If I got the job, my success would only highlight their struggles. And in her fear, she'd chosen to sabotage me. I felt sick. My own sister, the person I'd shared everything with, had betrayed me to protect her own crumbling life. What are you going to do? Ryan asked when I told him. I took a deep breath, anger and determination mixing in my chest. I'm going to confront her. And this time, she's not going to squirm out of it. As I drove to Nancy's house, my thoughts raced. How could she do this? Could we ever move past it? One thing was certain, nothing would ever be the same again. I was done being a victim. It was time to take control of my life, my future, and my narrative. No one, not even my own sister, was going to stand in my way anymore. When I stormed into Nancy's house, my blood was boiling. She sat there, trying to act calm and innocent, but I wasn't buying it. Cut the crap, Nancy, I snapped, slamming the folder of evidence onto her coffee table. I know what you did. Her face went pale. Liv, I don't know what you're talking about. Save it. I interrupted, pointing to the damning documents Ryan had uncovered. The hacked emails, the fake profiles, the anonymous calls to James and Company, it was all you. explained Des. Nancy's eyes darted around, desperate for an escape. That's when Jack walked into the room, his brow furrowed in confusion. "What's going on?" he asked, looking between us. I turned to him, my voice trembling with fury. "Your wife sabotaged my job interview. She's been actively trying to ruin my life." Jack's jaw dropped, and he looked at Nancy, who was now on the verge of tears. "Is this true?" And just like that, the dam broke. Nancy started sobbing, her words tumbling out in broken gasps. "I'm sorry. We're in so much trouble, Jack. The debts, the gambling. I couldn't stand the thought of Liv being successful while we're falling apart." Jack's face hardened, his shock giving way to anger. "So you tried to drag her down with us? Nancy, what the hell?" I stood there, shaking with a mix of rage and heartbreak. Seeing her breakdown was like watching a slow-motion car crash. Horrifying, but impossible to look away from. "I trusted you," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "You're my sister. How could you do this to me?" Nancy reached out to me, tears streaming down her face. "Liv, please, I wasn't thinking straight. We can fix this, right?" I stepped back, shaking my head. "No, Nancy, we can't." I turned to Jack, my tone softer but firm. "You both need help. I'll help you find a support group for the gambling, Jack. But after that, I'm out. I'm done." The next few days passed in a blur of emotions. I reached out to James and Company, explaining the situation with as much honesty and professionalism as I could. To my surprise, they were understanding. "We were impressed by how you've handled this," the HR manager said. "We'd like to offer you another interview." 6 months later, my life looks completely different. I'm thriving at James and Company, working on exciting campaigns that make me love what I do. My mornings are filled with purpose, and my evenings are often spent laughing over wine with Zoe or learning coding basics from Ryan. As for Nancy and Jack, they're in counseling. Last I heard, they're trying to rebuild, but the family has kept their distance. It hurts, but I hope they figure things out, for their sake, not mine. Sometimes I miss the sister I thought I had. The one who braided my hair before school dances, who held me when I cried over my first heartbreak. But then I remember what she did, and I know I made the right choice. This ordeal has taught me the importance of surrounding myself with people who lift me up, not drag me down. And sometimes, those people aren't the ones you expect. So here's to new beginnings, to standing up for yourself, and to realizing that you don't need to dim your light for anyone, not even family. Would I ever forgive Nancy? I don't know. Maybe someday, if she proves she's changed. But forgiving doesn't mean forgetting, and it doesn't mean letting her back into my life. Some betrayals cut too deep. What about you? If you were in my shoes, could you forgive your sister? Or is sabotaging your future an unforgivable betrayal? Hi everyone, I'm Rosa Jones, a flight attendant with United Airlines. Ever wondered what happens when a toxic stepmother becomes so obsessed with control that she's willing to sabotage her stepdaughter's birthday? Well, buckle up because that's exactly what happened to me. This story will show you just how far some people will go to maintain their grip on power. I used to have an amazing relationship with my dad, Tom. We were inseparable, movie nights, Sunday brunches, you name it. That all changed 6 years ago when Sarah entered our lives. At first, she played the perfect stepmother, but that facade didn't last long. "Rosa, honey," she'd say with her syrupy tone, "I think it would be better if we moved the Father's Day celebration to our house instead of that restaurant you picked. Your father prefers home-cooked meals anyway." It started with subtle suggestions that always, somehow, worked out in her favor. Then came Madison, her 21-year-old daughter. Madison turned everything into a competition. "Mom, Rosa's uniform is so basic. I'd make a way better flight attendant, don't you think? I have the perfect look for it." As if juggling flights and dealing with Sarah wasn't enough, I started planning my 27th birthday party, a milestone I wanted to celebrate my way. I booked the Sky Lounge, a stunning rooftop venue with breathtaking views of the city skyline. My crew friends were just as excited as I was, especially my best friend Lily. "Girl, this is going to be epic," she said during an Amsterdam layover. "Finally, a party that's all about you. No Sarah, no drama." But of course, Sarah had other plans. It started innocently enough. "Sweetie, don't you think the Sky Lounge is a bit much? What about having it in our backyard? I could make it so special." When I stood my ground, her tone shifted. "Your father and I think your guest list is too exclusive. What about inviting Madison's friends? They'd love to celebrate with you. One morning, while I was getting coffee, I overheard Sarah whispering to Madison. Don't worry, sweetie. We'll make sure your friends get invited. Rosa needs to learn she's not the only one who deserves attention in this family. That was the tipping point. Every time I mentioned the party, Sarah's gaze darkened as if she were plotting something. She even started calling my vendors behind my back to confirm details I hadn't approved. My dad, ever the peacekeeper, tried to mediate. Honey, Sarah just wants to help. Maybe let her handle some of the planning. But I knew better. This wasn't about help. It was about control, just like every other family event in the past 6 years. My high school graduation. She changed the restaurant at the last minute. My first job celebration. It turned into a joint party with Madison's college acceptance. The final blow came during a flight over the Atlantic. I received a call from Sarah, her voice dripping with that sickly sweet venom I knew too well. Listen carefully, Rosa. This little party of yours? It's going to be Madison's special night too. Either she's the guest of honor, or there won't be a party at all. I ducked into the galley, gripping my phone tightly. You can't be serious. Oh, but I am. Your father's credit card holds that venue reservation. It'd be a shame if the booking disappeared. My heart raced as she continued. And let's not forget Madison's anxiety. You wouldn't want everyone to think you're excluding your fragile stepsister, would you? How cruel of you. I wanted to scream. Madison's anxiety only ever appeared when she didn't get her way. But Sarah wasn't finished. By the way, what would your airline think if they received reports about your inappropriate behavior with male passengers? Or those photos of you at that club last weekend? A little editing could tell quite a different story to your boss, to your father. I barely held it together as I served drinks, Sarah's threats replaying in my mind. When I landed in London, my cousin Kim called. Rosa, you need to know something. Sarah's already contacted the venue. She told them she's your stepmother and that she needs to make urgent changes to the reservation. What? How do you know? I work at the travel agency that books events for the Sky Lounge. This isn't the first time she's done something like this. Remember Amy's wedding last year? The guest list mysteriously shrank because Sarah threatened to expose Amy's old DUI if she didn't let Madison be the maid of honor. Then my Aunt Kate called. The warning came from Aunt Kate, her voice heavy with concern. Next, honey, be careful. When Sarah was married to my brother, before your dad, she pulled the same stunts. She blackmailed my daughter Beth during her sweet 16, threatening to tell her college about a cheating incident that never even happened. I paced my hotel room, my mind racing when my phone pinged. It was a message in the family group chat. Madison, can't wait for our big party. Already told all my friends about our joint celebration. Another message followed. Sarah, isn't it wonderful, the girls sharing their special day? Then came the final blow, an email from the venue confirming changes to the reservation. The guest of honor was now listed as Madison Williams. I sank onto the bed, tears stinging my eyes. But my phone buzzed again. Sarah, just checking if you've reconsidered my suggestions for our party. I'd hate for anything unfortunate to happen. Little did she know, her reign of terror was about to end. This time, I had a plan. I sent Sarah the text she'd been waiting for. You win. You and Madison can plan whatever you want. Within hours, they had taken over everything, just as I'd expected. Madison simply must make the welcome speech. Sarah gushed to the event planner while I pretended to scroll on my phone. My best friend, Lily, posing as an assistant, quietly recorded every detail with her phone. And we'll need to change the color scheme, Madison added smugly. Rosa's choices are stow. Flight attendant basic. Sarah's smirk made my blood boil, but I kept my cool. Every word, every manipulative move was being recorded. Later that week, Madison slipped up big time. I was around the corner at my dad's house when she called her friend. It's going to be epic. Mom's planned this whole speech about how I'm following my dreams while Rosa's just a glorified waitress in the sky. We're even going to play this embarrassing video from her first flight training. She'll never recover. I trembled, not with fear, but anticipation. My phone recorder caught every venomous word. The next day, my dad was in his home office when Sarah and Madison strategized in the kitchen. Thanks to the small mic I'd hidden in the fruit bowl, we captured it all. Remember, sweetie, Sarah said, when you make your speech, Emphasize how Rose is never there for family events because of her career. Make her look selfish. What about the slideshow? Madison asked. I've edited those photos from our layover in Miami. No one will believe Little Miss Perfect after they see these. What they didn't know was that my dad had quietly come downstairs for coffee. He stood in the doorway, listening as 6 years of lies unraveled. But the real bombshell came when my cousin Amy paid Sarah a visit, wearing a wire I'd given her. Remember how you handled my stepdaughter Caitlin's graduation? Amy prompted. Of course, Sarah bragged. I used the same technique with Rosa. Threats, manipulation, a little creative photo editing. These stepdaughters need to learn their place, and if they don't, they lose everything, Sarah sneered. Their reputation, their career, their family. I've done it before, and I'll do it again. I'm in charge of this family. Every word was crystal clear on the recording. The day of the party, my phone buzzed with one last message from Sarah. Final run-through tomorrow. Don't be late to your own humiliation, sweetie. I smiled, knowing the surprise that awaited her. The Sky Lounge was packed. Sarah, resplendent in a designer dress, grabbed the microphone. The chandeliers sparkled as Madison stood beside her, both wearing identical smug smiles. Everyone, Sarah began, her voice dripping with false sincerity. I want to thank you for coming to celebrate our girls. As you know, Madison has been struggling with anxiety, missing her beloved stepsister while Rose has been away. Across the room, I caught my dad's eye and gave a slight nod. Lily, stationed at the sound booth, pressed play. Sarah's voice filled the venue, cold and menacing. Either Madison's the guest of honor, or there won't be a party at all. Your father's credit card holds that venue reservation. It'd be a shame it got canceled. Gasps rippled through the crowd as Sarah froze, her champagne glass slipping from her fingers. Before she could recover, the recordings continued. Her threats, her schemes, and her admission to sabotaging other stepdaughters' lives. These stepdaughters need to learn their place, Sarah's voice echoed. I've done it before, and I'll do it again. The color drained from Sarah's face as her conversation with Amy played next, detailing every calculated move she had made to destroy others' stepdaughters' lives. Sarah's voice faltered, but my dad's cut through the silence like a blade. Is this why Caitlin never visits her father anymore? Is this what you've been doing to my daughter? Tom, I can explain, Sarah stammered, panic spreading across her face. Explain what? How you threatened to destroy Rosa's career? How you've manipulated this family for years? The crowd murmured, their whispers like waves crashing against Sarah's crumbling facade. One by one, the truth spilled out. Madison's fake anxiety attacks, the doctored photos, the sabotaged family events. Dad, she's lying, Madison shrieked, her voice sharp with desperation. She's just jealous. That's enough. Dad's voice thundered. I heard you both in the kitchen. I heard everything. Sarah made one last desperate attempt. I did it for our family. These ungrateful stepdaughters needed to be put in their place. But it was over. Security escorted Sarah and Madison out as Sarah's cries about family loyalty echoed through the Sky Lounge. 2 weeks later, karma delivered its final blow. My dad's divorce papers hit Sarah harder than she could have imagined. Last I heard, her country club revoked her membership after learning about her pattern of harassment. Madison, it turns out, had lied about finishing college and was now working retail. As for me, I just made senior flight attendant on international routes. Right now, I'm watching the sunset from my Paris hotel room, planning my next birthday party. My phone buzzes, a notification about Sarah's 15th blocked number trying to reach me. Maybe she wants to apologize or explain. Delete. Block. Au revoir, Sarah. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about breaking free and soaring higher than your abusers ever thought possible. They tried to clip my wings, but instead, they taught me how to fly above their storms. The real gift? I'm finally free to write my own story, and this one has a much better ending. Have you ever had to choose between exposing someone's toxic behavior and keeping the peace in your family? What would you have done in my situation? Played along with Sarah's manipulation to maintain family harmony, or exposed her true nature, knowing it could tear the family apart? I know firsthand how painful these decisions can be. My story might be over, but so many people are still trapped in similar situations, silently suffering under the control of toxic family members. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever dealt with a manipulative family member? How did you handle it? Your experience could help someone else find the strength to stand up for themselves. If you want to hear more stories about overcoming toxic relationships and finding your power, hit that subscribe button and join our community. Each story here is about rising above the darkness and discovering your strength. Let's support each other through these challenging journeys, because sometimes the family we choose is stronger than the family we're born into.